was nominated for president at a convention in New York in 1976, where Barbara Jordan was the keynote speaker. And that remarkable moment where she says, "I, Barbara Jordan, am a keynote speaker." And he is now eulogized by a woman of color who was a major party nominee and very nearly the president of the United States. And the vice is, in fact, the incumbent vice president. It's a remarkable arc. And no one person is responsible. No one party is responsible.
She had the best eulogy, I think.
A final note, what I would hope is that
What it does us.
Doesn't do us any good at all.
that Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson.
She is still, what is she, a senator?
No, she's nothing. She's a vice president.
Of the words they just spoke in the heart of
She's-
the
So
Capitol.
she doesn't go back to her former job?
No, her former job. She was
Wasn't a congressperson, a senator?
Is my audio going? Hello, everybody.
The committee arrived.
Yeah.
Oh, good, it's working. It wasn't working last week. Good.
Oh,
look at you. Excellent.
Hello.
Multi-use. Roz.
Happy New
I'll
Year.
tell you, when Joe Patty comes, I want to make sure we tell him the bridge over the Sunnyside Yards where the bikes go is very, very icy. It just came back.
You know, I actually noted that at a cabinet meeting that the bridges and the overpass have to be salted and get a little love because we've gotten a few notifications that they don't have a little love.
Well, good. Then we get our voices all together. I think especially this needed salt. It was just ice and
Yeah.
they hadn't done apparently anything, but it was just over the bridge part. And they always say bridges freeze, I guess, sooner than every place else. They really do.
Probably last year. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Right, clear. Oh, good. Excellent.
It was not bad. Anybody needs an agenda?
And then the
I
pond.
need an agenda?
This is
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you need?
The Harvard District for.
To make extra copies, so we did. Do you need one of these?
She just called me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I voted for.
You read together?
Yeah.
So,
But I do think it's in order.
we'll get started in 5 minutes.
Thank.
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year and welcome. Hello, hello. Hi.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. This is Queens Community Board 2 Transportation Committee on Tuesday, January 7th. I am joined by Debbie Marco Kleiner, District Manager, Marianne Garado. Members of the committee and public members and members of the public. Thank you so much. We are going to start the meeting with public comments. If anybody's here for public comment. Yes,
1 minute.
you got 1 minute.
Hi, which way should I go?
Do you have a timer?
I would speak this way, so that we can get
Okay,
both.
sure. My name is David Kuckelberg. I am the Vice President of Bus Advocacy, Passengers United. The MTA released the proposed and Queens Bus Network redesign proposed final plan addendum on December 17th. The MTA is slated to approve it at their committee meetings on January 27th and the board meeting on January 29th. The surrounding neighborhoods attempted to demonstrate to the MTA that there is support for the current route structure. Their efforts were fruitless. These neighborhoods have been demanding a new route via 21st Street via the Queens Midtown Tunnel. It would increase accessibility and connectivity. I, however, think that the additional money allocated to the project was not used to expand service, but to shift route paths and prevent service cuts. To the MTA, this is not better bus service. Go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Up momentarily, I'm gonna hang up my jacket.
Um,
House is all set.
you mentioned there are a couple of major things.
Sorry.
that
Well, one thing is that I would like, well, the I would call it the Q92, a route that would run from between Astoria and the hospital areas of Manhattan via the Queens Midtown Tunnel.
Mhm.
And leaving the Q101 and D62 as is.
And what's currently planned for Q92?
There is no
They've
such,
eliminated it? or-
there is no such exist, no such route that exists, and
Gotcha, yeah.
we were hoping to get it on, to establish it, but as I said, our efforts were fruitless.
Okay.
And sir, if I may, what happened to the 101 that you're concerned about?
That, it's no longer going into Manhattan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
I
you
also
very-
have copies of our critique if you want.
Sure, yeah. you can-
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And what was your name?
David Kupferberg,
David Kupferberg. Thank you.
Vice President of Bus Advocacy, Passengers United.
I remember you here before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Lori Diaz and I'm the.
Yes,
Yes.
because we are recording it, please speak loudly
Okay,
so that everyone on Zoom and in the room can hear you.
okay, thank you. So my name's Lori Diaz and I'm the club manager of Court 16 LIC located on 1306 Queens Plaza South. I'm attending this meeting to express public concern of the surrounding area around our business. Presently, we run a tennis and pickleball club located on 1306 Queens Plaza South, and we're currently in the midst of renewal season. Our families have expressed growing concerns for not only parking in the surrounding surrounding area, but also just the lack thereof. Additionally, we have tons of garbage illegally dumped on 13th Street. It's really something that has become a full-time job for me on top of running the club to just constantly put in tickets to get this service and taken care of. Directly in front of our business usually also has a lot of dumping. There is no receptacles for trash underneath 21st Street. We regularly have to ask 311 to address the issue and to ensure we are not fined as a business, which takes a lot of time away from serving our member base currently. We also have an increased amount of stagnant vehicles, which will monopolize both sides of Queens Plaza South in front of our business and do not allow our clients to park comfortably. Some of the vehicles have been there since the summer. I have submitted kind of pictures as well to review the images of some of those stagnant vehicles. Some of them have been there for so long that items and debris have built in around them and it's just.
30-second warning.
I'm sorry?
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Our families are forced to park on 13th Street, which is filthy and there are increasing concerns from our members in regards to their children needing to walk through not only the garbage, but also the people who have made underneath the bridge of their home. There's no lighting underneath that bridge. The weekend of 11/15, we actually had someone experiencing homelessness sitting in front of our business who refused to move, and our staff had to lift strollers over them in order to gain access into the building. Additionally, this past weekend in December, we had 2 vehicles broken into this month. One was a long-standing vehicle that was vandalized and someone that was using the space as short-term parking. We've been working with the LICP in order to track records and hopefully get some of these issues addressed. But additionally, I'd love to see not only meter parking, but just some sort of signage.
If I may, there's a long list, Chair. I'm wondering, have you submitted that to us?
As far as the tickets.
No, the statement.
You send us an email with all
Yeah.
those details in it,
Yes,
and
I
we will
have.
be happy to take care of it and send it to the appropriate agencies for enforcement and guidance.
Thank you.
So Laura, you contacted us through email last
Mhm.
month with this email and I replied to come and visit us so that we could try to come up with a solution. I suggested that maybe metered parking could be available there. We could look at what the process would be to start that. You did report a lot of stagnant vehicles to 311 and we have those numbers. So that being said, there are a lot of problems with illegally parked vehicles in this district, so the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I would keep pushing, keep pushing. You are now part of the LIC bid
Mhm.
starting this year. And you've been in contact with them.
Mhm.
And, yeah, so I did also invite you to come here to speak, just in case some of our members have institutional knowledge who could help with maybe the metered parking or stuff in that situation to move from an unmetered, unclean street to a clean street.
Yeah.
Did you?
And if you, I was just gonna add, if you haven't, I'd encourage you to attend the 108th Precinct Community Council meeting. I sit on their executive board. Please come to that and we'll make sure that your information gets on their record as well.
And when you send us an updated email, make sure that if you have a picture of the make and model of the vehicle, or you know the make and model and the color of the vehicle. That's
Yes, I
helpful.
actually have a ongoing kind of like in partnership with the LICP, we have a drive that we upload regularly, so. Dylan is somewhere, I think he's on the call, currently Dylan Brown, who, has been helping.
Yes,
from the
he is.
LICP. So he has, not only just a file which we update with kind of like those pictures, but those vehicles have been there since the summer.
Understood.
And we're just kind of losing hope of reporting and not having them addressed.
Yeah, there's
You have to send them to us. We'll have sanitation, take a look at them, take a picture, and we'll see if we can get it under the derelict vehicles situation and see what we can do.
You have a lot of automotive shops around there, so it's probably
Yeah.
their vehicles.
Yes.
Dylan has a hand up, behind you. Dylan?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Dylan Brown. I'm the manager for the Long Island City Business Improvement District, which we just did expand on the 2nd. So I've been working with Lori to address these issues, and these are it's a good example with Lori, but it's also a district-wide example of we have a lot of abandoned vehicles sitting around the district. We have a lot of long-term parking, especially with companies leaving their box trucks, taking up parking space that could be used for residents. And then, of course, there's the overall issue of illegal parking on the sidewalks. I actually just looked through the data for the 311s, and since I believe April 5th of last year, there have been over 3,400 311s within just Long Island City, not Community Board 2, reporting illegal parking. So obviously a very, very pertinent issue that I'm trying to figure out how to deal with. I think enforcement is probably the largest issue, but me as being a part of the bid, this is something I'm always working on, always trying to improve. So I believe we got about 4 of the vehicles that Lori was talking about towed by the NYPD, and I'm working with sanitation to get the abandoned vehicles out of the way. But more so just that this is a larger neighborhood issue, and this is a very small piece of a larger puzzle that I'm trying to solve. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's an issue that's at our, every meetings and on our minds all the time.
Chair,
Fanny,
my name,
you always-
oh, go ahead,
I'd
ma'am.
like to talk as a minute as public, because I represent a property owner here called Esprit Cornerstone.
Oh, okay, sure. Let me,
Yeah, I just want to address Dylan.
just stay on
Dylan,
this issue.
thank you so much for being here and I appreciate your comments. With your expansion, can you ensure that the new businesses that you're taking care of on Borden Avenue, they enforce themselves? Leaving the Blissville section of Long Island City, walking to the 7 train, many of my neighbors must walk in the street because they're not able to walk on the sidewalks because of the businesses along Borden Avenue. So I'd appreciate if you
yeah,
could follow up with the businesses that you represent.
yes, I always do. Some of them are a little bit harder to get in touch with than others, but this is also just an ongoing thing.
No,
So
thank you.
trust me, I'm working on it.
Thank you, sir.
Lori.
Yes, first a question, have requests been filed for improved lighting, and where you mentioned under the bridge? And secondly, bollards might be something we should
Yeah.
consider as a way to keep vehicles
Protect the
off the sidewalks.
I
Because
agree.
it's a massive problem, and, yeah.
I concur.
It's a growing problem. It's not getting fixed.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lori, for coming. Fanny.
Okay, I represent SVP Cornerstone, which is located at 4238 13th Street and 4233 12th Street. Between 21st Street and Werner Boulevard is all businesses. There are no residential. So, to accommodate, I've seen the problems with LC, they're my neighbors, hi. So, perhaps they could have a no standing zone in front so the parents can load off the kids, in a
Yeah.
safe manner because we have all these problems. I asked DOT to evaluate, the plaza as a whole. We have trucks without license plates that have been parked there. And because of what happened, down, with the Mardi Gras, we should, I spoke to the captain already. We should actually have them really investigate every truck that's there and give tickets. And if we do a maybe quality of life zone like Central Boulevard,
Mhm.
We have now maybe it grew. Now we have like 8 RVs there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if then, they can't park overnight, right? If you have, some movement, but we should be very considerate since it's an IBZ zone
Mhm.
still. That, there are businesses that are operating and they need to park trucks. One of my neighbors, Powell Environmentals, told me he had $5,000 in fines every month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
So what is the issue with that? Is that there's not parking available because of
It's,
the
the
stagnant
sign
vehicles?
is wrong, some of the signs that were there was no parking, I was there for 9 years before this, right? They took down the sign, and I can't even see now as I make a left to the corner, because there's no visuals from 13th Street and Queens Plaza South. So when I call, I believe Florence, District 1 has the bridge, that's what they're patrolling.
Mhm.
But all in all, it's still part of our community, so.
And but we still are two
Yeah.
separate districts, just so
Right.
you know.
Right,
So the issues have to be reported, what's in CD2 and what's in CD1, so.
so I reached out also to the community affairs officer over there,
Mhm.
and they told me that Captain Wallen's gonna take care of it. And I also have been to the meetings with the captain,
Yeah.
and he's aware of it. He told me to give him some time. That was early December.
Okay.
So,
Danny, send us another email,
okay,
all
thank you very
right? So
much.
that
then.
this way we could follow up and I can follow up at the cabinet meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, as I said, the illegal parking is a district-wide issue. We want businesses to be able to have parking, and I think metered parking and loading zones are probably the solution to that. Vehicles are part of the life of New York, so they need to be accommodated.
However, vehicles are not entitled to abuse public space
Of course,
and, take over space that's for keeping
Especially
pedestrians safe and for others, and if they are in violation of that and racking up fines, that's that's on them.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I asked why the fines were racking up, and so,
Because it's the wrong sign. It has a residential sign instead of a commercial sign.
yeah.
Yeah, so I asked.
You
you know,
reported that sign being wrong, like a 3011 report?
I didn't know what the proper procedure is. I'm a newbie still.
Yeah, no.
Fanny, you're not that new, you've been very active. No,
Yeah, you're
So
no
let's
longer
not play that innocent.
No, I have to learn now. I have to follow by your codes. Anyway.
But
so-
certainly send us the emails
Yes, I
and we'll
will.
help you
I
follow.
will.
Okay,
And then when we talk to Joe at the DOT, we can talk about what happens if we notice that a sign has gone missing or changed or anything.
you can investigate. DOT can check it out.
Great, do we have any other public comment? I don't see anybody online. I see people, but no hands up. Great.
Laura?
Yeah, that's the cursor.
And I also want to welcome CB2 Chair Anatol Ashraf to our meeting on Zoom. Welcome and Happy New Year.
Everyone, Happy New Year.
And Anatol, you can hear us better, thank you. Oh, we had the
Yep,
blower,
thank you.
we had the blower fixed, so it definitely helps quite a bit.
Awesome, awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks to all.
So the meter parking and the.
Believe me, my
is that
pleasure.
Something that we want to formally request from DOT, like what's the procedure?
Well, she'll send an email and then we'll follow it up.
And I think
Did
the
you
new
guys sign the
business, We could, when we get to new business, he could make a motion.
Yeah, we can make a motion under new
In-
business.
Under new
Under
business.
new business, okay.
Yeah.
Send the letter.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right, I have your email right here.
Awesome, thank you.
Excellent. So moving down the agenda, now we have the Department of City Planning, to present street mapping actions.
My apologies, I did not know I was next, so I did not get ready.
You have a presentation?
Katie, why don't you sign in so then I can give you privileges and you put it up there so everybody can see?
Really, Laura and last time, in Landers? Yeah.
Is Laura gonna present from up there or it's gonna be Katie logging in? It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna log in, I just need
Okay,
to.
no problem. You send the sign-in sheet so Mr. Druss can sign in? And anyone that hasn't signed in, please sign in. And we got everybody online, so not worry.
Yeah.
Being recorded.
So while you're setting up, we'll do one more public comment.
Thank you. All right, I'll set the timer.
One minute, we just finished public comment.
Co-host. This one? Co-host?
Hello, I'm Barry.
Never mind, I got it. I got
Hi,
it.
Barry.
I'm a resident of this community. I'd like to talk about
Please speak louder for everybody.
regard to the congestion pricing issue and transportation as a whole. There's a tremendous amount of building activity going on in Manhattan. There are 30 new buildings, super tall. Chase Manhattan, 270 Park has 15,000 people occupancy. The Cria building had 3. If we get 100,000 more cars coming into the city, they'll come through our neighborhood. At least 15,000 will come through. That's more traffic than we ever had. Unfortunately, bike lanes aren't doing anything. They're restricting capacity. Bike racks are full and bike lanes are empty. That's not good. But I'd really like to know what you think about this and where you'd like to go with this, because this is going to impact our future directly. And every day, traffic's getting worse and worse, and it's not going to get better. And as the builders keep building, they go higher and higher, and the occupancy gets bigger. And in addition, there's 80,000 low rent units being proposed for the community from what I think they accepted it. And that means like thousands of new buildings going up in the suburbs. So we're getting more density, no doubt about it. You know, our transportation system doesn't reflect our ability to handle it. So I'd like to know where you stand on this stuff. Okay, thank you. Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for addressing it. Corey, yes.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind is that we are in the midst of a nationwide, a region-wide, and a citywide housing shortage. So the city does need to provide housing, especially affordable housing to people. Now, I agree. I think there's too many cars in New York City, and that's actually the thing that congestion pricing can help address, which is to discourage people from driving in and fund connections to public transit and create space for cycling and other. I do take issue with the claim the bike lanes are empty. What we've seen is bicycle crossings over the bridges have increased every month consistently, and there was no different this year. As well as the fact that it's been very short so far, but in the 3 days since congestion bike's been activated, we've seen a dramatic drop in traffic in Manhattan. So I'm actually excited to see.
Well, they estimate congestion pricing will reduce congestion by 10%. That's not gonna do it.
We gotta see what happens, but I will say that this transportation committee has a letter of support in favor of congestion pricing. So, you know, we're in support of it, and we're eager to see the actual outcome. Of course, it's an investment, might take definite, but basically that's the situation that we're in.
Thank you. Yeah, Laura.
Just also note, as we mentioned last time, we've also supported dedicated bus lanes leading into Manhattan.
We need a lot of.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
Part of it.
I know Barry has
Buses to
presented
run on
on that before, right,
Yes.
Barry, about the bus lane?
Very good point.
Yeah, yeah, we don't have any bus lanes, I think, in CB two.
No, we heard from Barry at the last
Yeah.
meeting about the bus lane.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
also the bus operations have to change. We need to model buses out, similar to the way subway cars are. Because there should be dedicated lanes, the lights should be geared to buses, and they should run at a constant level of use, so they're reliable and you can time them. This is the way they should be run.
Like his other,
Plus outdoor boarding.
Maury, please put back your other background.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Barry. Yeah, I think we all see that the large problem is that we are at full capacity for cars. And so the city has had to, over the last couple decades, figure out how to get people out of cars, get cars off the streets, and find new ways to bring people into the commercial centers. So then you see the protected bike lanes, you see bus lanes, you see more funding going towards better buses and new bus map. So it's all being addressed, and we support all of those moves to do that. I think the only alternative to what the city is doing is to build more and more car lanes, and
Well,
it's
there's no-
impossible.
There's no room for more.
There's no room, so
No.
we have to get people out of their cars, or the city has to get people
You
out
have
of
to
their
get
cars.
people to leave their cars at home.
Yeah, and I think that's where the committee has been heading, where the board has been heading.
We're all in
and
agreement.
Where we see BOT and the elected officials heading. So thank you very much. Thank you. Katie?
Do you have privileges?
Anatoly raised as his hand raised.
Yeah, Anatol, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, hey folks. Yeah, I was just gonna say like the overall in answer to your question, I feel like the city of yes is a really good, encapsulation of many of those issues, and CB2 is the only one of two community boards in Queens that supported it. So so just to echo everyone, we're very, as a board, we're supportive of the issues you brought up. At least the good things that these initiatives are trying to solve. I just wanted to add that positive news about congestion pricing. I work on 42nd and 3rd Avenue, and the last 2 days I took pictures at lunchtime every day when it's usually a madhouse, rain, snow, or shine. And these last 2 days, there was so few traffic on 3rd Avenue that the only vehicles in the bus lanes were buses. What? Buses in the bus lane? Who would have thunk in the year of our Lord 2025? So yeah, so I'm excited about what some of this means, and I just hope that we give it time. It's only been 2 days. Like last night when I was leaving the office at 5 o'clock, 3rd Avenue was empty. People were crossing the street in the middle of the street on a Monday, on a work day, even like today on the way back, it was busier, but like no standstills, no nothing. So yeah, let's just hopefully let this play out, and hopefully the good things come from it. So yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the first-hand experience. Good. Katie?
Cover up my, notes then. Okay. Okay, so I'm not gonna have my notes super clearly in front of me, so I'm just gonna do my best. All right, so I just want to start by thanking you all for having me here at the Transportation Committee meeting. This is new for me, so thank you. The presentation I'm going to be giving tonight is the exact presentation that I gave to the Land Use Committee back in December. So if any of you were around for that, oh, look at this. Oh, perfect. Okay. If any of you were around for that, this should not be new to you. So getting started, we are going to talk through the street mapping actions, and then I will also describe the agency polling process. So getting started with why we're proposing street mapping actions. We shared the 6 goals of the plan back in the summer. And so what is before you today relates to shared goal 2. Shared goal 2 is to invest in existing parks and deliver new open space along the waterfront and in the core that is high quality, resilient, sustainable, and accessible. So the next question is, how do we accomplish this? We will need to create legible public access to the waterfront, adapt the street network to allow greater flexibility and site planning on adjacent sites and along the waterfront, and bring all of our city's mapped streets up to basic standards. The draft scope of work included a set of proposed actions that were designed to give us the greatest flexibility to deliver on the shared goals that I spoke about before. So in this case, we have 2 ways that we're approaching public access to the waterfront. The first is modifications to the Northern Hunters Point Waterfront Access Plan, which will guide the development of new high-quality open space along the waterfront. I did a pretty detailed presentation on the WAP modifications to the Land Use Committee a few months ago. I assume most of you weren't present for that, so I have kind of like a little primer in here to give you guys. So basically, the green arrow that's running vertically along the waterfront indicates the shore public walkway that will be provided along the waterfront. Some sites may also include supplemental public access areas, which are shown in these kind of like blobby areas along that shore public walkway I just spoke about. And that will allow for greater open space opportunities. And then lastly, public access to the waterfront is required to be provided by way of upland connections and visual corridors, which are both physical and visual connections from the nearest upland street to the waterfront. And those you can see in these arrows, that kind of take the street network and extend them down to the waterfront. And so those can be seen by the horizontal arrows. So public access will be provided through either the city street network or through these upland connections provided with private development sites. So building on this waterfront access plan, we're also proposing a set of street mapping actions, which are we're showing the new city street in this dashed line here. Can you see my cursor? Yeah, okay. So the new city street would be this dash line here. This would be a continuation of 44th Drive and would connect, continuation of 44th Avenue and would connect to 5th Street here. And we are referring to this as a loop road. So the introduction of this new loop road will provide additional frontage between open space and adjacent waterfront development. This will make people feel more comfortable using that waterfront space and really ensuring that that space feels truly public. The street width would also contribute to enhanced views of the water from upland sites. So kind of just like pulling everything off of right on the waterfront, pulling it back so it feels like a little bit more accessible. And then overall, this will build flexibility into our site planning processes, creating more vibrant public spaces and providing access to the waterfront at regular intervals down Vernon Boulevard. I know that was a lot, so I am going to kind of take that and break it down. So the street mapping actions will affect the area that's outlined here.
which includes 4402 Vernon Boulevard, which is here, and the two public sites, which are here and here. The street network needs to provide connections for the public to be able to access the waterfront. And to do this, we're proposing several amendments to the city map to demap existing paper streets, adjust the width of other streets, and create the new loop road. I'm going to break it down even further because I know this is kind of dense. So the areas shaded in the orange hatching show existing mapped streets that have not yet been built, and we call these paper streets. So we're proposing to demap these paper streets to make way for a new network of city streets. And I will go through these one by one. So starting with the northernmost portion, we're proposing to demap the mapped cul-de-sac on 4402 Vernon Boulevard. This design is a definitely outdated and a very inefficient use of space. The next proposed demapping is what would be the prolongation of 44th Road. Today, the street's alignment is not an efficient way to map the street, as it does not follow existing lot lines. You can see here how it creates this odd kind of triangle here. And there's no connectivity between the street ends. So if this street were built as it is mapped today, it would just dead end right into the water. So not really serving the community in that way. So the next area is the street end of 44th Drive. This is another mapped street that goes directly into the water and does not promote connectivity along the waterfront. So we would be proposing to demap that area as well. And then the other change would be to the existing street network would be to 45th Avenue. 45th Ave is a very narrow street at only 30 feet wide and currently does not meet our current city standards. So that's everything that we'll be taking away from the city map. And now I'm going to walk one by one and explain what we're going to be putting back onto the city map. So starting with number 1 here, we're proposing the introduction of a new loop road. Like I said, this would connect 5th Street with 44th Avenue at Vernon Boulevard. So this is shown in this kind of black hatching here. The loop road would be wide enough to accommodate two-way vehicular traffic, bike lanes with either a dedicated facility or a shared concept, and pedestrians with two 15-foot sidewalks. The loop road creates legible and connected public access along the waterfront. Now moving to number 2, we're also proposing a new alignment for 44th Road. The new alignment would follow existing lot lines, which will create a bit more space and create new frontage on both of the adjacent properties. This new alignment would be a more efficient use of space and would strengthen connectivity to the waterfront. So these proposed new streets would be added to the city map, but all of these different street segments might not be necessary, and these can be demapped before they're built at any point in time in the future. So really these actions are designed to build in flexibility for us, but they can also be removed as needed. And number 3 here shows where we're bringing all mapped streets up to basic dimensional standards. 45th Avenue would be widened to provide enough room for one-way circulation and sidewalks on both sides. And so kind of filling in the whole picture here, this proposed street network would create a number of open space opportunities along the waterfront, and these are shown by the kind of green blobs here. So that's the description of all the actions. Now we're going to talk about agency polling. This is a standard process with street mapping actions, and it is a required step in the application process for anything that affects the city map. So a polling letter will be sent to public agencies, DOT, DEP, public safety, anyone with an interest in the street network, and private utilities like Con Edison and Verizon. So the community board will also receive this letter, which is why I'm presenting this to you now. So the letter describes the proposed actions. You'll get some background on the project and a detailed project description. And the purpose of the polling letter is to have these other agencies or utilities identify any requirements or considerations that should be taken into account before making a final decision on the action and before the project enters public review. So for example, DEP will tell us what pipes are on the road, share about anything that might need to be removed, or any restrictions about moving that infrastructure. DOT would share comments on street geometry and make sure that all road alignments are safe. FDNY would share comments on emergency access. And utilities will give us information on anything going on under the ground and any constraints that may be there. All of the responses will be collected and compiled into a pre-certification report, and the public will be able to see this pre-certification report. So next, I have provided a sample of what a technical drawing might look like. I want to note that this is a draft. This is not a final document in any way, so it doesn't reflect the application itself. The materials that are referred out will look more like this and less like the graphic versions that I walked through today. So you can expect to see the outer boundaries of the street line, but design elements like traffic direction or bike facilities, like specific design would not be included. We are only reviewing and looking at the kind of like, I would describe it as kind of like the outer like skeleton, and then like everything gets filled in into that. And then my last slide. So I just want to go through our next steps, and then we can go back and talk about all the stuff that I just presented. So the next step for you all would be to prepare your responses to the polling letter. At this time, we do not have an exact date that the polling letter will be released, but we're anticipating that this will be mid or late January. After the community board receives this letter, you will have 4 weeks to share your comments. Comments are for the specific street mapping actions we just walked through, not the LIC plan as a whole. So effective responses would be directly related to the direction of traffic, street widths, and things along those lines. If the community board does not have specific input here, no response is required. The polling comments do not replace ULURP, so the completed application will come back to the board for your review, and you'll be able to comment on it then as well. And that is all I have.
Katie, can you send the presentation to us so I can hear it?
Yeah, it's the same presentation I sent
Oh,
earlier,
okay, perfect.
but
Excellent.
All right, thank you so much for presenting. We have some questions. Corey?
Yeah, so in terms of widening 45th Avenue, is that gonna involve, acquisition and demolition?
So the application that's before you now, doesn't speak to all of those details. The city map process is a little bit different than like a typical ULURP where you're like passing the rezoning and then now it's on the zoning map. There's a lot of steps along the way. So once it's approved, there are some steps that we have to take before something can be filed, and a street cannot be built until it's filed. So I know, I know that's a lot. So basically there's a time between approval and filing of the application or filing of the street map when all of these finer details get worked out, like design and acquisition and actually building the streets and who owns what, that gets handled during that time.
But just to clarify, Katie, that time period could be, depending on where it is, a project that's being worked on, it could be like 10 months, it could be 10 years. Like there's no actual time frame that we need to file something. It's when we have development moving forward that we would actually start to file that and make sure that we have the right geometry based on what's being proposed in the area.
Basically, the paper street gets wider, and then when a redevelopment proposal happens, they would bring the frontage to the new sort of edge of the right of way, and it would be like a piecemeal or like a big package redevelopment. That's sort of the examples of how it could happen.
So go ahead, Lara.
I was just going to say, yes, it could happen. But you sounded like you were going to say something more, Katie.
I was really just gonna say that it's basically on a site-by-site basis, like each site, each street is kind of its own unique condition. So as far as 44th Avenue specifically, I don't know what else would be paired with that to like make the street widening happen.
And my other question is, Are we sure we want to widen these roads to accommodate vehicles? Basically putting more impervious surface than we absolutely have to bring access to the waterfront, especially in such a flood prone area. Like I wonder if we could get away with, you know, a narrower promenade or something that can still bring people to the waterfront without needing to accommodate two-way vehicle traffic.
So specifically for 45th Ave, that is definitely a comment that we could take back with us. And then like as far as like a more general comment, like is this kind of the best use
Right.
of all of this individual streets? That's another comment we will definitely take back.
Patricia?
Just two things. This loop road, is it going to be built on, building? How is that gonna happen?
Again, these are sort of like more like design and build questions that we don't have fleshed out at this point in the process. So that's not something I have an answer for.
Okay. Secondly, I'm going to reply to you. Not everything is just acceptable, it's just accessible by bike and walking. There are times when people need to come by car because of whatever abilities, disabilities, handicap, whatever. I was at the land use meeting, and I had asked at that meeting, I don't know if it's part of the purview of this, is there ways that people are going to be able to get to these public spaces from outside of the Vernon Boulevard parameter? Are there going to be buses going there? Are there going to be, you know, where is the train stop by there? I mean, people cannot just say that you can get someplace by bicycle or by walking. Flood zone to me doesn't mean anything because people aren't going to be parked there to get their cars flooded. They would go there and then go back home again. So I want that to be taken into consideration, that it seems as if there's only one way of thinking of things by some members, and then there should also be other access availability.
So I'd just like to clarify, when we're talking about this, we're adding basically one potential block of walking or rolling in a wheelchair. I don't think we're talking about adding a parking space. I think it's reasonable to expect most New Yorkers to be able to travel one block without a car. Also, in terms of impervious surface, my concern isn't necessarily about property damage. My concern is about exacerbating flooding by creating more surface that floodwater can't percolate down into.
Well, I would imagine that that would be part of the construction of it, that there would be ways of dissipating water or whatever at this, knowing everything that's gone on in the past, there would be ways of doing it. So what you're suggesting is that people would be able to park their cars along the parameter of like Vernon Boulevard and be able to walk into the public space.
Potentially. I just don't want us to default to assuming two-way driving on all of these new streets that we're creating without
I
looking at
also
the
don't
best,
want
highest
the
and best.
default on no cars.
It's
being
not what I
able to-
suggested.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if you're going to have public, car parking somewhere, that's why I asked the question of how many different ways can people get into this public space? Cars should be one of them, because there are some people.
It's very hard to hear you online, and also we can't see you with the presentation up.
You have to take the presentation down so that people can see.
Thank you so much, Maury. We'll do our best to speak louder. Thank you. I'll just jump in and say, Katie, that we heard some more specifics about some of these streets, like 15-foot sidewalks, one-way streets. I think part of the concern is, and I mentioned this at land use, when we build streets, we want to build to accommodate all, not only for cars and trucks, but also for bikes and people on sidewalks. And it sounded like that's all part of the plan. Yeah, but it's also not a fleshed out plan. This is just a remapping.
Yeah, so one kind of like nuance here is through this action, we're saying we can create this much space, and this space could fit this many sidewalks, this many bike lanes, this many parking lanes, this many car lanes. And so the actual design of the street will be fleshed out later down the road. We're sort of just making sure that there is the space for those facilities in the future. I know it's not as satisfying, I know that.
Yeah, yeah. But so this is our opportunity as Transportation Committee and the full board to comment on the remapping of streets and, you know, any concerns we may have. Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, so this, this time I heard you say that the loop road would be designed wide enough to accommodate either protected bike lanes or a shared concept. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so this gets back to kind of what I just said, is that the width that we are proposing is wide enough to accommodate a bike facility. As far as like what that bike facility is, that's why I said like either
Okay.
or.
Yeah.
So like it's wide enough to make sure that we're able to accommodate all of those users.
Okay, yeah, because I think, like I said last time, if we're designing a street from scratch, and there are gonna be cars at all, there absolutely need to be protected bike lanes so that we don't repeat mistakes like the northern part of Center Boulevard.
Yeah, I'm also reminded of how Manhattan is getting pedestrian bike pathway at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, when we have the opportunity as a city to build it out right the first time. And what it seems like the city wants to do is have people able to walk and promenade and ride bikes next to the water, and still have access by vehicle.
One question. What's the basic standard for streets, wide dimensions?
That is not a question I personally know the answer to. I'm sorry.
Can I email you on that?
Please, yeah, okay.
There's a is there a DOT standard on like the sidewalks? Isn't it 15, and then in the middle is 16?
Well, I mean, yeah, number one, it depends on what the streets historically been mapped to begin with, but are you talking like specific like parts of the street? Yeah, I mean, like essentially a 5-foot path, like we do have standards for like sidewalk width and things like that, like a 5-foot path is, you know, a preferred minimum that we have for sidewalks. And we also have different categories based on how busy the street is and how many pedestrians we expect there. As for things like parking lanes and driving lanes, it can vary based on the needs of the street. You know, a lot of times driving lanes can be between 10 and 11 feet. Parking lanes are usually 8 to 9 feet. So we do have standards that we can apply to that. And when we do map streets like this, you know, we work closely with DCP to make sure that our standards are applied to the street, whether they're built by the city or a developer. We do, you know, give guidelines to what we would like to see in the street.
Okay. One of those streets on the 44th Drive, there's a lot of land. And this is my first question pertains to that. But is that land gonna be given back to the developer? Actually, it's one developer on that piece.
44th Drive is sandwiched in between both of the
Right
private
in
side, the
back of
public
the
side.
DOE building where Mag Plaza, where Shopee.
Yeah, that's a current street end, so that's already space that's publicly owned and within the public
When I
realm.
look down, it's a lot of space. Is the developer gonna be giving that back as some
That's
green space? Let's
ours.
just say it was 4,000 square feet and you're building only 2,000 square feet. So what happens to that 2,000 extra square feet away? It goes to developers or it goes to park space, open space?
The street end of 44th Drive is already within public ownership, and so it would remain in public ownership. I think we're envisioning this as possibly an opportunity for additional open space. But this is an asset that would remain with the city.
Okay, so it would be considered part of the open space that could be created with the developer, right? Like, you know, additional parkland, open space, because you're giving them, you know, because the street itself is, say, 4,000. I'm using it as an example, right? So your basic standard street is 2,000 square feet, so you have an additional 2,000. So that should be given back to the community as open space. So we should sit down and calculate exactly, you know.
So we're proposing to demap this street, so it's an area that's designated to become a street, and we're proposing to not have it become a street so that it can become public publicly accessible public land.
Okay, I think I should put it in writing, and then, you know, you can respond back to me.
Sure. yeah.
Okay, and also as a disabled person, I'm on, January 1st, I went around to the walk with the Hunters Point Conservatory. I find 4 feet, really questionable whether, because I'm going to be purchasing a vehicle, whether I and a bike can share the same space and be safe at the same time. So I will be, writing, ADA and DC, asking them.
Okay.
Do you have answers?
Is it the 4 feet of bike lane or where are you sharing
I
space?
like to, you know, I don't know what condition I'm in. I was walking like you guys 2 years ago.
No, but what do you mean by sharing 4 feet with a bike?
Well, the esplanade that Judy says she got 4 feet, I don't think it's enough because I saw somebody on a walk with an actual vehicle. I'm exploring into buying myself a vehicle because I don't want to be stuck, you know, walking 1 block. You know, I like to enjoy.
Can you
the-
just speak a little louder
Yeah.
so they can.
I like to enjoy the, you know, what you also, so, you know, I don't think 4 feet is enough for a bike and a disabled person to, you know, be on the same path, right?
Are you talking about like a motorized wheelchair or?
No, actually, they have 3 wheels, and I looked in the definition of a bicycle lane, et cetera, today. It says anything with 3 wheels is considered, so we should look into that, you know? That's not-
Confused by what you mean by
One way.
vehicle though.
Huh?
How's that a vehicle though?
Well, you have 1 bike lane, right?
Is it one way or is it 2 ways?
Well, here's another question, because we're going, you know, we're doing the whole waterfront now into, Bayside Beachers. Right, so we have a lot of questions. Like I said, we should do it right from the beginning because it's millions of dollars. So I'm bringing off these questions because you guys are the expert, you know.
Yeah, no, just specifically whatever you're asking about, because we're trying to imagine the vehicle and the lane and the specific place that you're talking about. Bike lanes can be wider and they're starting to build them wider and we've seen them accommodate
In
people.
Manhattan, they're wider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any specific place where we think that might be a great idea is certainly something that we should talk about here.
So the waterfront that we're talking about.
Yeah, all right.
Marlene, I see you putting things in the chat. We don't monitor the chat. So if there's something you want to say, please raise your hand. Feel free to ask a question. Marlene, do you have anything you want to say or question or ask? You would need to unmute. No. No, I just wanted to.
Understood.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah. So this is all kind of vague. Would this be more
Overlay
would things
for
come out in the LIC plan about what will appear in the space? You said things can happen within 10 years or 10 months. Does the LIC plan include what this open space is going to be?
So the open space, is that the question? Not the.
The
design of
waterfront,
streets?
well, you
Okay.
said the streets are not going to get built.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's just so focused on streets. Okay.
But the waterfront will be in relation to the street, so.
Yeah, for the open space, like programming, we will definitely have like a whole host of public feedback that we've gotten, especially from that waterfront workshop on the different kinds of like amenities and facilities that people want to see in those like kind of blob areas that I showed. But each individual open space area on private sites will be like provided by the developer themselves. So they will have to meet our standards and our requirements and everything, but they will have some flexibility on how they deliver on those community priorities. For the public sites, I think the process is a little bit different, and I don't have a ton of information on what exactly that open space would look like. But anything developed through the WAP that I kind of glossed over, that will be in conformance with the waterfront access plan and our standards, but will still be sort of up to the decision of each individual property owner on how they want to deliver on that.
Sure, yeah, Laura.
Yeah, just to get clarity though. And to Fanny's point about 4 feet, so the waterfront, you're describing a continuous pedestrian esplanade only,
Yes.
walking only. So no bikes, no motorized, wheelchairs, nothing like that, but ADA accessible.
The short public walkway will have, oh, the terminology, I'm trying to think if I know absolutely that it's the pedestrian walkway. There are instances for bike. I'm trying to see if there's.
Why would it only be 4 feet though?
It's not 4 feet. Short public
Okay.
walkway is 40 feet. Yeah,
40 feet,
40,
okay.
yeah, so there's.
So why wouldn't we make that the bike route for connecting, yeah, the full Queens Waterfront Greenway? Why would we keep that on Vernon?
Well, our waterfront team is working closely with this, and they do have big plans for these new streets as well. We want to integrate all these things together, but,
No, I'm just imagining the map. I know that the
Yeah.
map you're looking at, so like in your head, so. And how that relates to the Liverpool company. Sorry, so.
yeah, like she's essentially talking about the promenade right next to them. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, our waterfront, team is working very closely with this project, the whole rezoning effort. So every opportunity they do see of any streets being reconstructed along the waterfront, that's something they want to definitely get on. Make sure that there are bike connections to and from the waterfront, and whether they run along the waterfront itself, that I can confirm. I'd be surprised if it didn't, but I can look into that.
Like when you're talking about the disconnect between Center Boulevard and to the north. I see it, you see it. It's unfortunate, so.
Well, it's fixable. It's not just unfortunate.
But I think also, right, like a waterfront greenway is ideally on the waterfront.
Yes.
So if we're creating a promenade, then it should be the obvious, choice to include high quality bike corridor there as part of the borough-wide waterfront. Greenway. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the traffic, it would see from day one,
Right.
we would want that to be 12 to 14 feet. Yeah. To accommodate volume of, north, south,
Bi-directional, traffic speed differentials.
right.
All right, so everybody keep notes on this stuff because we're going to have a comment on all of this. It's challenging if you have not been following all of the LIC plan and the waterfront access plan. And you just see these maps and you don't know what's getting built and you don't know how much has been decided. I'm speaking of myself, even though I read through
The royal way.
the plan, but, yeah.
We're taking notes as well too.
Chair, if you give me the liberty just to make comment to New York City Planning before they leave.
Okay, sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you
I think
so
we're
much.
near the end. Nobody else has any.
I appreciate it. Just a reminder that there was a survey recently regarding One Long Island City that has excluded those living and sheltering in the blissful section of Long Island City. In the survey, it does not provide an opportunity to identify that you live here. It only provides an opportunity to say you do business in an IBC, leaving out an entire population of those sheltering and living in Blissful. Second, the original marketing spoke to outreach. We've received zero outreach from New York City Planning or the council member. And our expectation is, yes, you've extended the survey by a week, but no one has come in touch with us. And the survey is flawed. I am not able to identify that I live in the Blissful section, one of the 4 IBCs, and am forced to identify as my neighbors living and sheltering in Blissville, with can only choose one option, none of the above. That is not satisfactory. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to also comment on that survey. One of the questions asked to select some priorities for the types of things that the LIC waterfront needs, right? Green space, et cetera. But because there were so many different specific options for housing, I worry that it sort of disperses people's priorities, right? There's very low income housing, affordable housing, moderate income housing, mixed housing, and market rate luxury housing, which I have my own issues with. I think I should just say market rate housing. But you know, if your main priority is you want more housing, you can't mark all of those, right?
Right.
And so I feel like that could, you know, create some kind of spurious distribution in the data. Just want to make sure that got raised.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd just like to make this known, I'm in the IBZ zone. A lot of my neighbors do not know about this survey. I personally went to Woodside and Namoot and told them to, you know, go to the very spots where there are artisans in certain buildings and, you know, workers like Target and make sure they get everybody who's in the IBZ zone. So, I think when the data comes back on this, it's not quite true to the real facts. And
Thank you.
part of our community has been left out.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Department of City Planning.
Let's approve you for Thursday, city plan.
Congrats on City of Gas.
Before you leave, can I ask you a question? I was on a meeting, I think it was, planning, they have sold, they announced they have sold Van Dam Street.
They what?
That was the map, when it came to the, board, that it was the map, but the map.
No, that's the.
Yeah,
the
they
thing.
announced to, you know, in a meeting, can you find that out? And
Yeah,
if so,
I
I would
tried that,
like,
so I'm looking.
can I have your email? I'd like to foil the contract.
Yeah, of course.
The Joe's not leaving though. Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
Joe
know
can't
that.
leave.
How
He's
is
only
that?
able to say-
Joe's not allowed to stay here.
I was only able to say it
Thank you.
the city. Trying to slim out with AC.
Okay. Get to ask.
No, he's kidding, he's kidding.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Is that true?
Yeah, if you tell me.
Oh, can't do that.
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry to,
Joe.
sorry to lose you, Joe.
Apologize for that.
Joe, there was a request from a community board member as well as others that the Honeywell Bridge needs love and it needs de-icing very badly for the bicycles and
Okay.
pedestrians and all that. None of our local bridges were. So
Okay.
we had a few calls today because it's very cold
Yeah.
and very icy out. So we need to get that salted and taken care of.
Right after.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, the bike
Also-
ped on the Queens Boulevard Bridge over Sunnyside Yards. Again, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Probably a good thing, because I know it's not gonna get any warm, but all this week it's melted.
Right, exactly. There's no melting going on.
Joe, do you have a minute for a lightning round?
And this is just, Joe, I don't understand answers, but, please take note. So number one, I read the letter from the commissioner regarding green asphalt. I don't
Thank you,
understand it.
Katie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is, anyway, it is not clear to me. Does DOT intend to use green asphalt even if they're not in compliance with the law?
That's not DOT's intention.
Okay, that's not clear in the letter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Second,
I think there was a line that stated that we, you know, we do expect them to come to compliance before continuing.
thank you.
but
I don't think that was it, but thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll
then.
look,
Thank
I'll
you.
look over it.
Second is the lawsuit. Or our friends on Review Avenue.
Yes.
I understand that it is submitted to the judge, so we await the decision. I looked online. In addition to that, as I read the lawsuit, it focused on Review Avenue. What I don't understand is why DOT chose to stop all other parts of the project when the lawsuit only had to do with Review. We need 37th Street done. We need the 14-lane intersection at the base of the bridge done. We need Van Dam done. The lawsuit had nothing to do with those parts of the project. Why did DOT stop working?
Well, I mean, from my understanding, our people who implement our improvement project, the SIPs, that they would not want to build half the project. And then, because it's a matter of, you know, getting contractors and
We've
we
been
are
waiting
actually trying
8
to
years.
get,
We need
Right.
safety.
we were actually trying to get some signal work done, you know, beforehand, but we ultimately, we do expect to get the whole project done.
And I'm gonna tell you the signal work that was done, and we can talk about this offline too many minutes, but it's made it worse.
Yeah.
With the change of the left arrow on Van Dam and Review. It's horrible, and I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Last item, it appears that DOT is still gonna sell off the land with all the trees in our heat island of Long Island City next to Blissville. Why is DOT ignoring CB2's recommendation?
Well, I wouldn't say we're ignoring it. Our land use team definitely knows about it.
They're still selling the land.
That if there was a more recent update, I didn't know about that.
Okay, so that's very disheartening to me, that DOT continues, and it just, in my impression. You have the concrete plants in Brooklyn that's hurting people. You used to use green asphalt that's hurting people, and now you're gonna take down trees that hurts people. What's DOT doing? Thank you, sir. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you very much. Laura, you had your hand up.
Yes, when is the Queensboro Bridge South Outer Walkway going to open?
We still expect Q1.
But that could be like in March, tomorrow, that could be.
Yeah, it could be between now and the end of this quarter of the year, so, but
Sorry.
no, but that's essentially what we expect, so.
Remind me what the current cause of the delay is?
So the current cause of the delay was because, the upper deck was getting replaced, all the panels were getting replaced on the upper deck. And so one of those was damaged in transit, so we had to wait for a new fabrication of that. Which is what, on the upper deck, which was what held up the work, or we have to complete the work on the upper deck before we, are able to do the rest of the work to open up the South Outer roadway.
I thought the issue was the South Outer roadway is being used as a relief lane for the congestion caused by the work on the upper level.
Essentially, yeah, but they do still need space to work. But, and also they need to install the fencing on the South Outer roadway too before that gets opened up.
That's
I remember.
nearly done.
Yeah, so that's one of the check boxes that has to get done before that's open.
So they're using the South Outer roadway as staging?
No.
Yeah, so I mean, my
You see
issue
cars
is,
on it.
we're seeing volumes precipitously decline since congestion pricing started. I don't think.
It is only been 2 days, so we should.
Right,
But I wish we worked faster than that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
can we request that it be reconsidered now that it appears that volumes have precipitously declined on the Queensboro Bridge?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know
People are
this is
still
gonna be-
crashing.
Yeah.
It's still a safety risk. There's more and more people cycling every month on this bridge. We need it every day.
Yeah. And I know there's gonna be some more internal discussions about the project in the next 2 weeks, so.
Okay.
Be able to see where this project's landing soon. And keep in mind, we're also gonna be doing more of the pedestrian improvements on both sides of the bridge too as well, shortly.
All right, but the walkway can be open before those are
Yeah,
done.
of course,
We need the walkway like
I agree.
years ago,
I agree.
not just yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'll just note that, many reports that the Queensboro Bridge is not getting salted and de-iced at the same time that the car roadways are getting. And, a two-wheeled vehicle, a bicycle is very, very dangerous on ice.
Oh, no, I've been riding the past few days, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we hope that with this seemingly very, very cold winter, that the bridges, potentially even bike lanes get, the same attention that the car lanes do.
Got it. How's their feet to the fire, because we have a normal winter finally.
Yeah.
So on the topic of the normal winter, I was thrilled to see the adorable bike lane sized plows out in preparation for the snowfall.
I have seen those on Vernon, I think.
My one complaint is that they staged them in the bike lane, and so they completely obstructed it.
Okay.
On Queens Boulevard. So
There's something about
operations.
sanitation about them.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So is this a sanitation issue, the clearing of the bike lanes as well?
Yeah, because those vehicles are owned by sanitation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
I have a question. Does DOT have jurisdiction from the building to the sidewalk?
what do you mean?
Like if somebody decides to erect, buildings on the sidewalk, right? Decide, this is, say this is the building, right? And they decide to erect something here, right? Does DOT have jurisdiction over that?
If it's in the DOT right away, yeah. If it's on a public sidewalk,
Yeah,
then that would be in DOT's right away.
okay,
Was it something specific or?
yes. I've been emailing for the last 2 years. So how do we get this removed? It's on the sidewalk.
What is it exactly?
It's garbage cans. It's a compactor that, it's metal buildings on it. It happened overnight during COVID.
Yeah.
So I've been emailing and it seems like nobody really has jurisdiction. Even DOB doesn't have jurisdiction over it.
Yeah, it would, if it's a permanent structure.
Yeah.
In public right away, then that would be an encroachment.
Okay,
So that's something that we would issue an encroachment for.
okay.
Yeah.
So if I send it to you, you will issue an encroachment tomorrow?
I just gotta see what it is and where it is.
Okay,
Gotta
'cause I
find out
put-
more of the details.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Patricia?
Just give me a definition of a public sidewalk.
Within cities right away. That's essentially what it is. If it's within city property in the public right away. If it's on a map city street, like if it's under our DOT jurisdiction,
So like most sidewalks, right? Like,
Yeah.
where a private sidewalk might be like in front of shop, right?
a private sidewalk would be on a private lot.
Right.
So if it's in public property, it's a public right of way. So it's essentially where someone's property line starts and ends.
So the sidewalk in front of someone's house
Is public right of way.
so then why is the owner of the house responsible for cleaning that sidewalk?
Well, that's city policy. So,
Oh.
yeah,
That's a good question.
And if someone falls on that sidewalk and hurts themselves, the city gets sued or the homeowner gets sued?
that would be on the homeowner to maintain the safety of the sidewalk.
But that's what I just asked, who has to clean the sidewalk?
The
The city or
adjacent
the-
property owner,
Excuse me?
the adjacent property owner, so whoever owns the property next to that sidewalk.
In front of it.
Yeah.
Right.
The public sidewalk.
So it's city ownership, but maintenance responsibility lies with the property owner.
Wonderful deal.
I think a
I
lot of
agree,
people
it's
don't
not
agree with it. And, you know,
I agree, it's unfair.
but it's a matter of like,
Yes. I
the focus of our tax dollars go towards that. They should, because the sidewalks are a mess when it snows.
But if there's something wrong on that public sidewalk, even though the property owner is responsible for it, the DOT can come in and deal with it?
Well, it depends on what's wrong.
Okay.
Because, if somebody has a sidewalk violation, you have a 1 to 3 family home, DOT can come in, repair the sidewalk, and then just build a property on it for what it would be. That's just an example of that.
And there are rules regarding trees. So make sure if it's the tree that did it, submit your request to Department of Laws.
Yes.
So, I do have a technical question, maybe we can talk about offline if need be, but I was curious if you can point me in the right direction for the criteria for eligibility for a bike boulevard, right? Like, what street characteristics would make a street eligible to be considered, right, level 82 or something like that?
Yeah.
If there's a document for that, I'd love to see it, or if you know the right person to reach out to, just I'm curious.
I definitely have to talk to the vice team about that because my understanding, there is no solid criteria for it. It's essentially a case by case basis, like. What would it make sense to apply those kind of treatments here?
Right, okay.
And it's not a hard title, like a bike boulevard essentially, but it's a combination of different stuff in the toolkit to make that. So it all depends on 100 different factors on a neighborhood and street network and what makes sense to put something where, whether it's a standard bike boulevard or a regular bike. lane. Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks a
Thank
lot,
you so
Joe.
much, Joe. Thank you for coming and we'll see you at the next one.
We'll have more questions for you. All right.
City planning, that was my purview for Thursday.
Got it, thanks, Tom. Yeah.
All right?
Thank
We
you
don't
so
want
much.
to be left out.
Nope. Joe, the next meeting is the February 4th.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Okay, great. So that is DOT and we've talked about traffic enforcement issues, especially illegal sidewalk parking, which seems to be a nuisance to everybody. So I don't know if we need to write a letter to our council member or.
I love the idea I heard, which I think to protect our sidewalks full of bollards.
Yeah,
We need to protect our sidewalks, that you see clearly businesses, you give them an inch, they take a yard. They think they own the streets and now they think they own the sidewalks too.
I'd like to point out, a lot of cities in Europe, it's standard practice, just to
Yeah.
line the streets with steel bollards.
I would feel more
Why it's so
comfortable.
hard to do here.
It is impossible for me to walk to the 7th train without, it's easier for me to walk in the street than on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That is not how it should be.
So, I
Those
mean,
are those cylindrical metal things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do we want to have like a request for the bollards and a separate request for metered parking? So at least they can both be considered, independent of each other?
I think it's important that it's independent of each
Yeah,
other.
agreed.
Yeah,
So they would be on the sidewalk or in the street?
probably on the sidewalk, right at the edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah, edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And funnily, they're all through Wall Street downtown.
Yeah.
Because they don't want cars driving on the sidewalks there.
When it matters.
Right.
That was for security.
No, I mean, but it's the security of the people on the
Security for
sidewalks.
safety.
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
it's really wrong for a lot of cars to park on the sidewalk, but a lot of people don't know the rules.
Yeah,
So
That's the
I-
best part about bollards. You don't have to know the rules.
Right,
Right.
you
Get on the
can't do it.
I will
Yeah,
say
it's
though,
just
re-
it's an
all-
infrastructure
It's
solution.
all over Walden City. It's not just.
Not even just LAC, it's everywhere in the city.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
well, the rules are, it's illegal,
Yes,
but if the police allow it,
yes.
then
But
it's allowed.
when the police do it
But if
in front
they're-
of all of their precincts.
So
right.
this is an
Dollars, it would be
enforcement issue. The
physically
police don't
impossible.
enforce the law.
Right.
So then, if you get away with something, then you
So
do
want
it.
ballots on every single street.
I would say
Maybe
it's
targeted problem areas.
I think it's,
Certainly
I would
something nice,
suggest
it would be-
targeted areas with pedestrians.
I mean, the
Yeah, how use of
IBCs,
Pedestrian.
like there's the IBC in Woodside is notorious, right?
Yes.
30, 40,
37.
yeah, 37,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a great noodle shop there that my partner and I walk to all the time. And last time we walked there, I straight up had to walk in the street because both sidewalks were completely full of junked cars.
Yeah.
So I feel I feel the
My
pain.
great aunt, she's 96, still mobile, has to walk in the street to go to the deli. That should not be. That should not
It
be.
wasn't like this before COVID.
No, it wasn't.
After COVID.
That's right. Everyone, it was a free for all.
Yeah, Hunters Point Avenue, you could start there, between Van Dam and Greenpoint.
Yeah, I think you could start everywhere.
Yeah, so maybe we can work with Dylan, I think, because he has a map of like where the hotspots are, right? So we could say like, hey, here's the top 10 places where we're
I
seeing.
think Dylan's
Sidewalk
area though
parking
was
reported.
limited.
Oh, that's right, that's
We
right.
could just pull 311 data.
You're very right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
full 311 data, my bad.
That's okay, yeah.
That's one Long Island City,
Yes,
not Long Island City on the
100%
other
agree.
side of the tracks.
Of course, you have to take into consideration some people's driveways. Businesses have to get their trucks and unload their products.
You know what another major complaint on 311 is? Obstructed driveways, another form of illegal
Yes.
parking.
Block loading zones,
Yeah,
yeah, which are supposed to address that.
but it's true. I mean, if you look at the 311 data, like far and away, the number one complaint New Yorkers make is illegal parking.
I would even
Number one
suggest,
is
if I
CB2.
may suggest, just looking at my isolated little neighborhood. If businesses, for example, that did, what are you called, the trucks that deliver things, what are they called again?
Delivery trucks?
Yeah, not delivery
Box
truck,
trucks?
the box trucks. If they have a site that sits 25 trucks, but they own 100, that shouldn't be. They should have to have the amount of parking available for their inventory. Because where do those trucks park? Illegally on the street. If we got those illegal trucks off the street, then the chop shop, whatever we want to call them, if they didn't park their cars and make that their parking lot on the street, we could free up in Blissful alone. 65% of the parking spots would be free if we stopped the illegal parking by the chop shops and these other places of business where they don't have enough space on their lot, so they park on the street illegally.
So I like the one too of, metered parking to ensure that there's turnover where there's supposed to be turnover. And hard infrastructure to prevent people from, making new parking spaces, right?
All right. I think we should also send letters to the police precinct and council member one. Just saying
I
that
think
this,
that's where we start, if I
this
may.
is a major.
Council
issue.
member, the police,
Yeah,
and the Long Island City bid.
Yeah, the same letter would go to all.
No, but I mean, about the illegal sidewalk parking and separately. Well,
Yes, we have already.
we have-
Yeah.
How do we ask?
Let's do it again.
What's the next?
We
step?
have it at my cabinet meeting, I bring that up on a regular basis, we have a list of locations that are really abuses. a lot of them are collision shops that really park their cars on the sidewalks and double parking and.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and vehicles have to ride in the middle of the street, people can't walk on the sidewalk, there's
And when
nowhere
the
for
police
anyone.
do respond, they ticket everyone gets a ticket, and then guess what happens?
They go away.
The police have to go
It-
over here now,
And some-
over there
some
now,
of the
and
locations,
they just start
It
again.
stops for maybe
A
a
month,
few days, not even, it doesn't even go that long.
no, that's it,
And then
but
they
the
go back,
police
it's the
do
price they pay
respond.
for doing business,
but they
for
don't
whatever
care.
reason, but.
Maybe we need to increase the fine.
Yeah, or we need legislation to
Yeah.
have escalating fines.
Right,
I was
instead of
gonna
just
say-
a fine, you get
Yeah.
your car taken away.
So if I may, I think if we're continuously reporting this to police through the proper channels and we're not seeing a change, right? I think we have to go a step up, right? Maybe we reach our assembly members or, bring local electeds in on this situation. They're like,
I think it
people
would
are
have to be
really
a city
frustrated.
thing.
Every letter we write is CC to all the elected officials and the mayor's
Okay,
office.
great.
I went to
Well,
one.
It's
but
the
that's
story
city
about.
officials.
Yeah,
cars
please, Fanny.
And
I went
state.
to
Okay,
one
okay.
So, every ticket, section has a chief, I got
Yes.
her number, and when,
Yeah.
one time I called her number, it was very useful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, but again, they respond, but they don't have the resources or
It was
the
ticketing,
stick.
it's the ticketing officer, it wasn't the police.
No, I know, well, same.
Maybe
But
they don't
I
have
like-
enough ticketing people.
I mean, we can work on that. with the
But maybe what we
association
need to
coalition.
do, I like the idea that we contact city council, maybe we need new legislation.
Yes,
I mean, there,
escalating fines would help a
Right.
lot.
but there is legislation to have.
Business
Yes,
licenses
yes,
from perpetual
exactly.
users.
And
Or
escalating fines.
That a
So
business that
But-
has 100 trucks must have parking for 100 trucks. If they only have parking for 20
Totally
trucks, they're
agree.
only allowed 20 trucks.
Is there a mechanism for enforcement for that right now?
No. There isn't, because I
The
addressed
mechanisms
it.
we have.
I mean, it's what Tokyo does to everyone's car, which is amazing. But it'd be nice to start with major industrial businesses. I think that's very fair.
I think it's a very fair thing. If you expect to run your business with 150 trucks
And you don't have,
and you don't have parking for 150, that's a
essentially what it
problem.
means is the city is subsidizing their business
Yes.
with public.
Right.
space,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
At the expense of pedestrians. We
Right.
have been asked by,
Well,
Dr.
it's
Roth to
expensive
speak
everyone.
Yes.
one at a time,
Sorry.
for our people at home.
Sorry,
thank
sorry.
you. I will say in my own anecdotal data, when I report, illegal parking in my residential neighborhood, it is sometimes summons. And if it's in front of an auto shop, it is never summoned. I think for the issue that it is just accepted by the police that this is a part of
And
doing
the teacher
business.
had to be a squeaky wheel better.
Teach me.
I squeak a lot. And I think it has moved up from, the enforcement being shirked by the department that should be doing it to a major political issue.
Yeah,
So if we squeak very loudly, then
I agree.
maybe it'll move up.
Yeah, everybody else pays rent when they need to store things, like, it's really not fair. Yeah, for businesses to abuse public space like this.
And I think the major issue is they're in our way. We're pedestrians. It is dangerous. It destroys the sidewalk, but it's also,
Accessibility.
yeah.
Well, I think there's two issues, right? Like, one is private businesses are using legal parking spaces, right? To subsidize their, refusal to purchase the land they need to store their vehicles, right? And that is squeezing the parking for residents, for commercial deliveries, everyone, right? And that is creating this reduced supply that is that's incentivizing people to park on the sidewalk, do other things, right?
And I would only amend
Cascading.
your statement with they are using legal parking spots illegally. Because they're commercial and they should not be parked on the overnight.
I see.
So they're using legal spots illegally.
Gotcha.
Recently, my wife, who doesn't like that 54th Street is completely covered by derelict vehicles on the way to the R train, because it's not a very nice, safe way to walk to our train, asked Council Member One, maybe this office as well, if we can get street cleaning on that street to move the derelict vehicles. And they said, she was told that the local businesses would have to request it.
It's a very complicated thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the homeowner.
So the auto businesses would have to request.
The fox is guarding the hen house.
Yeah.
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 No, there's no homeowners on that stretch. It's all.
I would also
it's
say that we've seen, rather than addressing an issue head on, going around the tree is never fruitful. Look what happened when there was an attempt to address the concerns along Center Boulevard with food trucks, right? By introducing sanitation. And so I prefer to address the issue head on, not around the tree. That's mine. Okay.
So talk to the police.
No, the original thing, get city council to introduce new legislation to give the police a stick that's going to not cause people just to repeat the behavior over and over again.
But I think the problem is
I
they
thought you
have
were
a
saying
strong
olives.
stick, but they don't
Well,
use
that's-
it.
Well, olives
But
too.
arguably, the increase
talking
in
talking,
fines also
not just
brings revenue
sidewalk.
into the enforcement, right? So the police are getting more out of ticketing,
But I
which
think
helps them do more enforcement.
the major issue is the police don't want to do this job.
Well.
That, we
but
can make the fines
but
more
you
and more and
remove
more,
their
but
argument.
they
You're
won't
saying-
do it.
You're saying after enough people complain, they go out and do.
Dr. Roz, you had your hand up?
Yes, I'm wrong.
Yeah, I did, and then I decided maybe it's just too much in this one meeting. The only thing I would say tonight, in order to avoid that icy bridge over the Sunnyside Yards, I rode my bike back from the city on the Northern Boulevard bike lane, and it was horrific because not only were cars in the bike lane, but people were getting for hire vehicles. And the most dangerous one, I felt terrible about it, was a for hire vehicle pulled up in a gap in the Jersey barriers. And then, and so therefore, but they were blocking the whole bike lane and everything. There was a lady in a walker trying to get in. All of this is very understandable, but it was almost impossible. And it was very dangerous because for me, especially because it was getting dark, to go out and around these things. And really, this is something more I should have brought up if I wanted to when Joe was still around. But anyway, but thank those of you who are speaking up. I have to tell you, I think this is an ADA issue that we need to make the acoustics more effective. I would love to offer, I have 2 wireless microphones, which I will give to this committee and any committee that wants it to use. And that way we could use the procedures that are used at the full board, and it would get a better recording.
Into a microphone. It doesn't have to be mentioned. Anatole and I did speak about it. So when now that the new season, we're gonna look into getting a microphone.
I will give you, in the meantime, 2 wireless mics that you can put right into that laptop, and it would solve this problem. I'm giving them to you. I'll donate them.
Motion to accept Roz's offer of donating a microphone.
Second.
I will deliver them too.
We will set it up.
Motion for a microphone?
Motion to offer to donate a microphone to our.
Second.
How disrespectful. to
That was
the-
2 seconds. That was forced.
For my 2 cents, as the district manager and someone that runs a well-run office, that is disrespectful when the chair and the district manager have already discussed it.
Yes, I would suggest that this business be held after the transportation committee meeting. Chair Anatole, please.
I'm sorry, with all due respect, we are board members that are volunteers and participating in a meeting. We have trouble hearing. We are not being disrespectful. What's being disrespectful is someone telling board members that they don't have a right to have a discussion of a problem. And you're saying that it's already been
But the
discussed.
motion was disrespectful after I spoke with the chair and we discussed when.
There was, okay.
There was a motion on the floor.
Out of order.
Thank
because
Now,
we
Thank you,
were
Maureen.
Going on with other discussions.
Thank you,
Robert's
Maureen.
Rules
Thank
of
you,
Order
Debbie.
Require if you have a motion, it has to be addressed. I seconded it out of respect for the person who made the motion, and that is not a disrespect for someone to make a motion.
Thank
There's
you.
Right.
Noted.
Thank you. I think Anatole, you wanted to say something.
Yes, there was no disrespect meant here. This has been recorded. Anybody who watches this recording can verify that there was no disrespect meant here. So I object to the outburst, Debbie, and obviously it's been recorded. So and I appreciate, you know, everyone trying to solve this problem. We will handle it. And yeah, you know,
Happy
we'll.
January.
I'm sorry.
Debbie.
I said, happy January.
Happy January. Yeah, so it'll be handled, and we'll make sure that by the time, definitely by next month. I'll give us a deadline. You know, by next transportation committee meeting, I am
Someone knows how to
requiring.
pick it up as well. I feel free.
I table
Wait.
this discussion for another meeting.
I will take care of it as the former tech chair and as a tech professional. I will make the time to come to the office and take care of it. I'm on the record now. Since we're wrapping up, I also just wanted to say I just reapplied for the community board. The application is open. So just a reminder to all board members here and any aspiring board members, I will go on the record. Corey Hannigan, please apply. Make sure that you send that in. And yeah, we'll make another announcement on Thursday.
It is my top priority.
Nice. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, thank you. I think just for Robert's rule, the motion to table, I second the motion, the previous motion. All in favor? Okay. Thank you very much. It has been an issue, and I'm glad that the office and Anatole are looking to remedy that. Thank you. We're not quite finished yet. We do have new business.
I did request permission to leave the meeting early. I apologize, everyone. I do have to depart. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Have a good night. So just for get a couple things in before the end here. We have printed Heart of the District. It was also sent out to Transportation Committee members. This is Julie Wan's office's survey with with Hester Street, a company that does this sort of thing, to survey the area between Northern Boulevard and Roosevelt Avenue, which is decidedly our district, to see the future of those major corridors. And I have mentioned it. I think it's very important to note that street safety is extremely important in this, and the number one issues all have to do with making the streets safer, implement traffic calming measures, create more protected bike lanes, improve the pedestrian experience. We spend a lot of time looking at Long Island City and Sunnyside and the areas on, you know, Woodside, Roosevelt Avenue specifically, which is a major commercial corridor, and Northern Boulevard, which is going to see a lot of development, definitely need to be improved for the pedestrian and bicyclist experience. So you guys all have this report. If there's anything that anybody wants to talk about with this, I'll note that it has very interesting images of the future of Roosevelt Avenue, which I may not be able to find, which seems to be protected bike lanes. These are images from Julie Wan's office, so it's not anything planned yet. It was a survey to feel out what the neighborhood and local businesses want. Patricia.
Do you have any idea of how many people live in our community, work in our community board area?
I'm sure there's data, yeah.
It's on the city planning website. I mean.
Might actually be in this report.
Yes, it's on the city planning website. It would be tens of thousands of people, I would imagine, and only 1,279 survey responses. So I question the validity of the survey.
Sure,
That
yeah.
is,
I think, you know, it is a survey, so it's not going to speak to all million
but
people.
if they come to want to do this, I mean, who wants to go forward with something that really doesn't have
So I think
1% of the people that were involved in the community?
Right, so I think the idea of this and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it is about future planning for the community. What I want specifically is for us to talk about the issues that we've faced in these places. Northern Boulevard, as discussed, has protected bike lanes, but there's no enforcement, so they're not truly bike lanes. We talk about ADA issues in different places. Roosevelt Avenue in particular is not a very pleasant pedestrian experience or there's absolutely no cyclist infrastructure at all. For me as a pedestrian, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, a lot of obstructions on the sidewalks, you know.
On the sidewalks.
Yeah, on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sidewalks. And so that all has to be addressed.
Mhm.
Crossings,
A lot of
crossings are
small
very
businesses.
dangerous. We had a death there last year on Roosevelt Avenue. Somebody hit in a crosswalk. So, you know, it's,
But yes, there's a lot of issues, but this is not, to me, valid.
all right. Well, we are an advisory board to our city government, and this is our council members survey, so it is an opportunity for us to address it. Well, this is not an
We get a
opportunity, but
chance to say to her that it's not valid.
It's not that it's not about validity, it's about this, I mean, listen, more people participated in this survey than are sitting at this table. It's a way to get a pulse, it's a way to get a general picture. It's not the
I'm
be
just
all end all
afraid-
of everything,
I'm just
but
afraid it's going to go further without real valid numbers inputting.
But that's why I bring it up at a community board, because this is where these things get discussed. The public can come here and talk about these things. This again is not like the LIC plan. This is not anything that's actually being planned or happening. This is a survey for future planning of the district.
I'd like to know how much money they spent.
I think it's all addressed in there.
If you're asked to spend more, so you get more respondents.
If it's valid.
Yeah, I know from experience, it's very difficult to get people to respond with the level of input that they got from respondents from these meetings. It's
I
coming to
understand
events
that.
after work,
Granted, yeah.
right? So I think, I agree, I would always love to see more people participate, but I don't think we should completely invalidate the level of work done in terms of really trying to ask
I'm not doing
residents,
that.
right?
What I'm saying is, I don't want them going forward with this as if they have a mandate that this should be, because it's not.
all right, what are you afraid of specifically?
Nothing.
We
I
haven't
want
even
it to be
discussed it
true.
yet.
We can have a discussion.
I want it to be true, and there's a lot to discuss. Granted,
Okay,
yes.
so let's discuss.
I just think maybe we shouldn't question the validity based on, you know, anyway, it's fine, it's whatever. I don't think we need to denigrate it before we even talked about it. I think that they've done a great job. Let's see what the report says, and then we can have a discussion.
Fanny, yeah.
Yes, I recently came across some articles, there are architectural, lighting design. And, I reached out to someone, to this group, and it's about putting solar lighting on the back of these trains on Roosevelt. You know, exploring an idea to design them. So I was wondering if someone from your committee would, you know, jump in now that I made a contact.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
No, I'm requesting them to think about this idea.
Oh, okay, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can
And
I
what is,
send
what
it
is
to you?
solar lighting on the back of the train?
No, you see, all along Roosevelt Avenue,
Yeah,
it's very dark, right?
Yeah.
So we don't wanna use electric, you know, perhaps we could design some solar energy that's
Mhm.
captivate the sun in the daytime and, you know, produce us light at night.
yeah, I think so. I think that's the nitty gritty of what happens in the community board when these things do happen. Again, I was not asked by council member one to talk about this at all. I thought it was very interesting when the report came out, that there is future planning in an area where I think that there really needs to be some street safety and street remixing
Yes.
happening.
It's very dark there.
Yeah, as far as like that is certainly things that we can,
So does any of your members, because I'm just an outside member, would like to jump in on this and, you know, participate with me, like in emails and stuff like that?
for sure, yeah, we can go
Yeah,
through the committee,
okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to CC you when I send them the email.
Yeah, and I think it is a big ask, and it's in here as well,
Yeah.
for better lighting and to have the added benefit of being solar
Okay.
powered, yeah, for sure. Laura,
Yeah, better street lighting is absolutely a recommendation in the report, especially for Roosevelt Avenue. And I 100% agree that better street lighting would improve the experience for everyone, all modes of transportation. And it would be a way, to transform the 7 train structure into an asset. Like, it could be artistic, it could be like pretty, it could be programmable or something.
yeah,
But yeah, while it would be great to have this connection, I think what we would want to do is send a letter to the city requesting that they look at this, and then they would put out an RFP for better lighting under the 7 or something.
All right, yeah,
Yeah. Probably how that would go.
excellent.
Send us the wording, we're happy to do it. And then we can send DOT.
And the
city
MTA.
And the MTA, of course.
Yeah.
So we'll do a lighting study, because it is very dark.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah, it looks like for the Roosevelt Avenue corridor, better street lighting was the highest ranked street, requested street safety.
Yeah.
Excellent, great. So again, if you're on Roosevelt Avenue, if you're on Northern Boulevard, note what you think can be improved, because that's what we do here. That's what I hope we do. We're advisory to city government, from people who live in these neighborhoods and work in these neighborhoods. So it's important for us, yes.
I think they approved the BSA on 5802.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
I think in the future, we should read the minutes at the BSA meetings, which other board has done in the past. You know, so let BSA how we feel about it.
Yeah.
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 That's a land use committee item.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we were members of this committee were involved in trying to.
And
block it.
testifying at the
Yes,
BSI.
because
Yes.
there's 900 kids that are going to be traveling down that road. It's very dangerous.
And I think that in this report is that we're trying to move away, or the city should move away from building auto businesses in these corridors. Yes, Corey.
So with the caveat that at least this printout, is cut off, so you can't see everything, maybe if we give a month so that members can, read through and consider it. Would we want to have a discussion on whether we want to endorse the recommendations wholesale or endorse specific recommendations? Is that something that this committee is amenable to, the level to which we want to support the recommendations made or disagree with certain recommendations? Maybe we set an agenda item for next month.
Sure, yeah, give it.
See, that's what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
Was just a blanket endorsement.
Right.
When I felt that there wasn't any meat here because there wasn't enough people.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm proposing is, this group should read through this and consider how we feel about the conclusions that are made. And then we can have an informed discussion about how much of it we agree with.
I also just want to note the recommendations are pretty vague. Like they don't name, other than broadly discussing Northern and Roosevelt, they don't name specific intersections or like, it's just very vague in general. And we would be the ones who would have to supply like the level of detail that city agencies could actually work off of.
Yeah. I think mainly these are the results of the survey, which show what the priorities for people who took the survey are. And those people are people who live and work in the neighborhood, and, surveys can't talk to everybody.
Usually people who are knowledgeable about what's going on.
Yeah.
Engaged.
And
in it.
engaged, right.
For sure.
Maybe we treat it as a 1,000-strong public comment.
And it's the people who aren't engaged who are gonna be left with what's given to them.
Sure, and we
Although
can
that's
also.
the case right now.
Just like with the transportation committee, I feel like everyone has the ability to get engaged and speak up. I would love for more people to be engaged.
Is there something that we?
That's been one of my challenges since before tech committee, since when Maury was chair, since I've been chair, the engagement and inclusion and accessibility and visibility. Accessibility, remember the big keyword. So yeah, yeah, much more to do, but we'll try to make sure that at least on CB2's part, we should be firing on all cylinders, right? So yeah, there's also like on tech and engagement committee's side, but we are all stakeholders for the engagement. So I deputize all of you to help spread the word whenever necessary.
I only sent the part of the district to the transportation committee. Should I send it to the full board tomorrow?
Please, more the merrier.
I'm sorry.
Please, the more the merrier.
Okay.
Yeah, because it does address land use, that's several things, environment, several things within our community board. Penny,
I suggest we look at the zoning map.
zoning?
Yeah, the zoning map.
Zoning. I thought you
Yeah,
said ozone.
because, some of the districts are still M11, that is manufacturing, they should be able to have their right to have businesses. And, we should prevent 5802 from happening again, because, there was a city of yes, so the application happened before. And that diminished 11 units from my, calculation. They told, the BSA was 9 units.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's like, if we know exactly where the residential and where the manufacturing is, we are more inclined to make a better decision.
For sure.
So I'll be sending you the,
Yeah,
the
and
zoning map.
just to remind,
Yeah.
that we pertain to streets and sidewalks. And
Yeah.
we deal with streets and sidewalks here and transit and.
Mhm.
But yeah, and maybe this will be a future rezoning, maybe it won't, I don't know. It seems like when the council member is in office, she wants to use her time to do what is needed for the neighborhood. And we are in the position to advise on that.
Mhm.
I do want to finish up this meeting soon. One thing that I'll mention is that, I recently had a briefing from the MTA about the 7 line, the Flushing line, just for a timeline. I'm going to right now. Essentially, everything has been waiting on 61st Street Station to finish, and then once they do that, they can work on the other stations, because once the express lane is operational again, they can switch off and work on the other stations, but that was my overall completion date is February 2026.
Of all the stations.
Of all the stations, that's 52nd, 61st, and 69th.
That's really.
Within, these are my notes and.
So to have both local and express service running normally again, February 2026.
I think so, let me see here, I took a.
We'll see.
Okay, then they'll start ripping it up again.
Yeah. Well, I was laughing because they finished the elevator at Queensboro Plaza and like that day, they're like, no more elevator at Jackson Heights. I was like, guys.
All right, so the 61st Street Express track is anticipated to complete in Q2 of this year, but that doesn't mean express trains are coming back because they need to use the alternating tracks to do construction. So 52nd, 61st, and 69th stations are projected to begin Q2 2025 on the Manhattan bound side and finish Q4 2025. So Manhattan bound side on those stations in our district will finish in the fourth quarter. And the Flushing bound side will begin then and finish in the second quarter of 2026. So a year from now, we should have renewed stations. They showed what they were doing at other stations in Jackson Heights. I think it was 82nd Street.
And 111.
And 111th. I think the images were from 82nd Street, and it is completely. They've regirdered, they've restored all of the infrastructure that exists, anything that was rusted out, that needed fixing and regirding and painting. They completely redid the concrete in the mezzanine and on the platforms, essentially taking everything that was there and fixing it and painting it up and making it nice. So we have promises that the same work will happen on our stations. We talked specifically, Anatole was at the meeting, we talked about 52nd Street being in very poor shape. And they don't know exactly what it's going to need until they start, but it's going to have kind of the same stuff. So by February of next year, we should have completely renewed stations, which puts us on track to maybe future elevator work in those stations. Did anyone have any questions?
I also want to add, what I thought was cool was the new humane pigeon deterrents.
Oh,
I forget exactly how it worked, but yeah, they weren't gonna. It's not painful. It's some new anti-pigeon technology. So, yeah, that's exciting.
It's great. I feel like every time we address it to the MTA, they go, "Oh, really? We'll look into that." But they know it's an issue.
It would be nice to have the elevator in the rendering.
Yeah.
Didn't they present about accessibility improvements at Court Square recently?
They did,
Yes. That's the one with the very, very long ramp
Yeah,
instead of an elevator.
there haven't been any updates on that recently.
I did not get a chance to ask.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll begin Q2 2025.
Maury,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, does anybody know those new metal sheets at the turnstiles in the subway? Do we know if those are definitely to prevent subway jumping or what are they for?
I saw the photo you're talking about, but I don't know anything else.
I haven't seen that.
Not familiar?
You know what station it was?
There's a few stations in Manhattan that I've seen them in. But I didn't hear anything from anyone. I didn't hear anything from the MTA, so I don't know if it's official or if it's just a test pilot or what.
No, I don't know. I haven't heard. But we'll keep an eye out. All right. Any other new business?
Do we want to make any requests for consideration of east-west bike lanes and south Sunnyside?
Sure.
Like,
I mean, wait, haven't we already
Talk about
we
47.
didn't go over.
47th and 48th?
Okay, okay.
That should be under old
Yeah.
business on the agenda.
I just wanted to make sure it was in
Joe didn't have an update.
the pipeline. Okay, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were looking at those avenues. After the death last year.
I don't see it in our.
It's under
That's under-
old business. It
It's-
should be integrated in the Sunnyside section
Okay.
at this point, though.
Okey-dokey.
Great, do we want to make any motions about any letters to send?
So
Yes.
with Tom's issue about the tree, the parcel that DOT.
Yes.
Is there any action we want to take on that, or do we just want to wait for an update from DOT?
We might have, he did not have an update, what did you?
The parcel, like in the highway on.
Yeah, that they're
They
gonna sell
sold
them.
it.
Yeah, that's the.
Oh, it's already
update.
sold.
They have a contract, of course, they were on city planning on YouTube. I could send you that clip. So that's why I asked them if I could foil the contract.
I see.
Yeah.
It's already sold?
Yes, that they have a contract. They told us something different. And then they go to BSA or, city planning, they say it's something different. That's why I think sometimes we should have minutes ready. We could read to
Yeah,
the people, the next meeting. That's what other boards have been doing.
yeah, I understand.
Cause that's all of BSA. You know who they sold it?
Our minutes are on the website.
So they sold it to the guy, the restaurant. So they came in, they told us the attorney said that, they don't own it. It's just a map thing. So, that's ethics,
Yeah,
with this attorney that we could write a letter to, the Attorneys Association. Yes, exactly. And, they've been doing this. I've been watching all the videos and it's just not right, It's city land. It doesn't belong to them, It could be even used as city bikes, et cetera.
Well, it's an awkward spot. We would want it to stay trees, but
Yeah,
I mean, if that's true, right, it's really concerning.
yes. So
yeah.
we can stop it because, why don't we write to the council now? I'll, you know what? I'll email you exactly where it was. When they said it and what clip, because it's on YouTube. And then you can take it from there. I'll email it to Riley and Deborah.
Or, I mean, Anatole, could the board put out a press release?
I don't see why not.
With
You know, we've
basically just saying, the agency went against our recommendation and,
To embarrass them.
I don't know if that's necessary.
well, not necessarily to embarrass them, but to
Well, it's one
to
thing.
make it public.
It's one thing if they went against our recommendation. I mean, if it's proper procedure for us to say, we're letting everyone know we recommended against this and it happened anyway, that's one thing. If they purposefully misrepresented themselves, it's a much larger breach of ethics, right? And that's a different,
Who misrepresented what?
well,
though?
that's what you're
DOT
saying, right?
Or
Is
the
that
property owner?
DCPD said this is a demapping, not a sale.
Right,
And
exactly.
So I want to verify that, but what I'm saying is if
Yes.
it was lying, right, that's a much bigger issue than just not taking our recommendations.
And they also have to put RPF on. It can't be just sold to them.
It's city property.
So I mean, obviously, it's more of a land use committee
Yeah,
discussion. I don't have the
okay.
expertise, but I'm just making sure we're clear about exactly what has happened. right?
Let me try to get the facts to everybody. I think that's very
Yeah, that's-
important.
Yeah.
Right?
Good
And
stuff.
then, the chairs can study it.
Sure.
And Anna's.
Yeah, did the full board do a letter about this, or is that us? Remember? I remember,
I mean, it was a motion at the full board.
yeah.
Yeah, because it was an action. I don't know if the letter got sent, other than, just,
Gotcha.
We're in agreement.
yeah, our
Someone should do something.
motion was recorded for the record.
Yeah.
So why don't we, since maybe we can't stop a sale as this committee,
Right.
we can take a month to look into all the facts.
Sure
and-
you can. It's just a contract. It
And if-
hasn't been consummated.
You mean we can stop? Yeah.
Oh, it can be stopped.
It's a contract. It hasn't
Sure.
closed. The
Okay.
property title has not gone to the second.
All right, maybe we'll discuss this at the full board. I don't know.
I mean,
It's Thursday, sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, sorry, remind me which,
This is that small plot of
which
land
location?
with trees on it in,
City of New York to the business located on Van Dam.
Oh, by Van Dam, yes, 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 I know, this is being handled, this is, the, it's being handled, that's all I'll say for now, yeah, and happy to follow up offline, but, yeah, I don't think, at this point, based on what I know, additional action is necessary.
I'll take your recommendation.
Yeah.
Laura, yeah.
Okay, so, just we're on new business. One, I'd like to make a motion to send a letter to DOT, NYPD, sanitation, requesting, bollards at locations with high volumes of 311 complaints and high volumes of pedestrian traffic. Sounds good, I guess.
How do we define hard hat?
Yeah.
You need
wanna
to
say,
be
like-
specific for the,
Yeah.
Maybe we want to say that the top 10
unless you want to
Yeah.
say.
intersections or top 10 blocks, maybe?
Yes, okay, at the, yeah, let's say the top 10 locations with the top 10 blocks with the most 311 reports of blocked sidewalks and
Just crossing.
Let's say blocked sidewalks, blocked driveways, and blocked loading zones.
yes.
Are those all separate 311?
I mean, they're all under the illegal parking
Okay, so
umbrella.
then just illegal parking, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Followers at locations of the top 10 location. What was it?
Top 10
location?
blocks.
top 10 blocks, because it makes sense
Yeah.
to do a whole block, not just like a single business.
Right.
Are you meaning bollards that would be going on sidewalks to prevent? So I think you ought to say that and say basically with the intent is to address the issue of illegal sidewalk parking.
Want to say like what? Steel or concrete bollards at the edge of the sidewalk?
Yes. Okay, so from the top, that was a motion to send a letter to the agencies and electeds, requesting steel or concrete bollards on the top 10 blocks with the majority of, with the most illegal parking complaints with the, to address the issue.
Within the CB2 district.
Yes, within the CB2 district to address the issue of parking on the sidewalks.
Seconded.
Amazing.
All right, we have a motion for a letter, seconded.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you.
Great.
Maury,
I did.
are you in favor? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Motion carries.
And then You suggested a 1-2 punch, so do you wanna make the second one?
Sure, can I read what we said so I can repeat it?
A motion to send a letter to DOT, NYPD, sanitation, city council member, et cetera.
It's our general elected official list.
Yeah, for
Exactly.
steel or concrete bollards
Right.
at the top 10
Requesting.
blocks, requesting steel or concrete bollards. At the
So-
top 10 blocks with high volume of 311 complaints of illegal parking.
Just read it off. Is that all right?
What? You're
I'm gonna replace steel bollards with parking what is it, metered parking. I mean, you can make a motion if you'd like, but I'm just gonna request exactly the same thing, but instead of bollards, it's metered parking.
Okay.
So, may I don't wanna.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a complete sentence.
Okay, so a motion to send a letter to. a
But
motion
does
to-
the metered parking one apply to the same locations, or is it for different purposes?
It's for the same purpose, but we think like two separate letters would be addressed, you know, if they say no to one, then maybe the other one can continue, you know.
Right, I got that, but I mean, I'm in favor of metered parking virtually throughout the city. But aside from that, is that really to prevent sidewalk parking, the metered parking?
No, it's to prevent, as Tom was saying, the illegal use of legal spots.
Yeah,
Well, why can't you have both, bollards and metered parking?
That's what we want, that's why we wanna send 2 letters.
yeah, okay.
Well, then I think you ought to say something about illegal use of, or of spots or whatever by businesses.
I would say both in one letter.
Well,
Let's finish the
so-
motion and
Yeah,
and do
okay,
the proper
so
form.
motion to send a letter to DOT, NYPD, sanitation, and our general elected contact list. To request, metered parking at the top 10 blocks with the highest number of 311, illegal parking complaints. To address, high volumes of, illegal use of public parking,
Public streets.
public street space.
Seconded?
Second.
All right, discussion.
I feel you have a better chance of getting it done if you put both in one letter, and they may come back to you and say, well, we don't want both, but will you take this, one of them? I think you get a
It's two
better
different
chance.
asks.
Yeah.
They are two different asks.
Yeah, I
You're
think,
asking one for meters and one for ballots.
Right.
They're separate asks.
So they have to be separate.
They should be
letters?
separate, yes.
Cause then they may say, well, you've got bollards, so you don't need meter parking. Well, you've got meter parking, you don't need bollards, and then that doesn't help with the sidewalk parking problem. And the people who are doing their cars, fixing their cars, will stick it in the meter park.
So I think, and I could be wrong, but my thinking is they'll have to answer each on the merits. I would want to avoid a situation where they find a flaw in one of the requests and categorically refuse our letter, which includes both asks. So if they say no to one,
Are you gonna look up the top 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll send me the top 10 so I can put that into the letter.
Yes.
yes, my only thing is metered parking. So either you have metered parking throughout the entire district, which would be, great, because then people can pay the price of parking. I say that with some caveats about
right, like maybe.
residential parking and stuff. I'm not a scientist on that, but, should it be targeted? Does metered parking serve the same purpose as bollards?
Like, is it punitive? Like,
Will it work? Will installing, so we want metered, where you're asking for metered parking to address the vehicles that are left on the street for weeks and months.
Right.
So maybe it should be the complaint for derelict vehicles, like 311 complaints or,
I actually think it's a very good idea because in effect, it introduces enforcement, through the system of, parking, meter, whatever they call the people that do the parking tickets and stuff. So, I think it's a positive thing, and the more the better.
I also think that the two issues are linked, right? The camping on, public street space is reducing the amount of parking available. And people are then parking on sidewalks more, right? And also sometimes the junkyards, right? They fill up the street and then they fill up the sidewalk, right? So sometimes it's the same actor, but I think these are two linked issues.
Sure.
This is my personal observation. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
speaking-
yeah.
I'm not representing.
Request a while ago. You have metered parking, I'll use an example, by Sunnyside Community Services, that collision shop up the block. Cars park on the sidewalk and there is metered parker,
I see.
so they're circumventing real regulations. You're not allowed to park on the sidewalk and you're supposed to, let's say,
Right.
pay a meter and they're
So
circumventing.
they're
both.
parking on the sidewalk to avoid the meter parking.
Correct.
With bollards would.
Right,
And,
right.
but it's also a collision shop and it shouldn't be on the sidewalk, so,
Yes, I mean, I think it's a two-way street, right? With no pun intended.
yeah.
Right, like the bollards is addressing two issues. One is people just parking on the sidewalk. And the other is people who are gonna avoid the meter parking on the sidewalk.
Do you have any examples of places where they've been using the bollards effectively that we could cite as a,
World Trade Center.
for instance?
The only bollards in New York City are either counterterrorism or they were put up like by a state agency, like on the Hudson River Greenway. Also counterterrorism.
Or if you're protecting electrical.
Right.
Every electrical box has two steel bollards or concrete bollards right in front of it.
Yeah.
And gas meters or
Right.
gas meters.
And utilities.
Yeah, or they're like in parks.
Yeah,
I have a suggestion.
okay, yeah.
If you target, we have several districts in our community board too. If we start targeting one district at a time and tell the cops to constantly target and give them tickets, they'll stop.
How do we pick which district to start with?
Gotta pick one. You know,
I think my district,
Your district, what is your district?
Sunnyside.
Okay, yes, let's, make a map and, get some meetings with the community board, with the police officer. And just tell them, we want this district, say, from
But the-
Sunnyside to 52nd.
I wish they were that
I mean,
responsive.
yeah, exactly, and then but the problem is once you shift, the problems will just reemerge in the original place.
Yeah, you have to go around again. You can't have balls for every single street.
Well,
I think that's why
eventually you
we're-
can, because they're permanent infrastructure versus the police
every-
playing whack-a-mole.
At Woodside, where all the cars are, between 58th, 37th Avenue and 61st, that's where all the cars are right now.
So, I apologize. I was,
37th Avenue. Huh? 37th Avenue. That's.
so
Go ahead.
apologies for my slightly
No,
facetious
no, no.
answer. So I think that the reason I suggested that we look at the top 10 intersections is it's the same approach that the city takes in safety, Vision Zero, as you look at their high injury crash network.
Right.
So I think the most equitable way to approach this, since it's an acute problem everywhere in the district, is just to say, where is the problem the worst? And let's start there, right? That's the highest impact for each intervention. That's just my recommendation.
Well, here's my perspective on that. I drive around London City Woodside, every day almost, right? And I see it everywhere. And if the word gets around, you're gonna get a ticket. They're gonna stop. They're gonna be in fear.
Right, but the
They-
issue is,
And the cops have to enforce,
yes,
how do you get the cops to get the tickets out?
so the issue is, we want them to enforce everywhere, and the cops are not enforcing everywhere.
Mhm.
And so perhaps an effective way to do it is to say, if you're gonna enforce, at least start with the places where it's the worst, right? That means like you're looking at the space where you're gonna do the most tickets, and it has the highest impact, right, for when they do the ticketing. It's gonna hit the most people, that gets the word out the fastest.
What about signs?
Signs are
No
good.
standing, no parking signs.
We already have those.
Yeah, we
That's
have
what
them,
makes it
they're
illegal.
constantly
You don't-
disrespected, that's why we need physical infrastructure.
You don't have them between 37th and 39th Avenue where it's 54th Street to 58th Street. There's a whole bunch of cars there that.
I think that's a different issue, right? Inconsistent signage may be its own problem, but we know that people are parking illegally whether there's signs there or not.
right? Even when there are clear signs, they don't care. They're just leaving junk cars there.
Okay, so let's just throw it out there and see if it happens. I think, typically these meetings are over around 8 o'clock, so I don't want the discussion to go on too long. So will you restate the motion?
Okay, I'm gonna try. A motion to send a letter to NYPD, NYC DOT, sanitation, and our general contact list of local electeds, requesting, metered parking at the top 10 the blocks with the top 10 amount of 311 illegal parking complaints in order to address the chronic illegal parking in CB2.
Sure. All right, and that was seconded.
Second, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
So it's one letter.
No,
it's
these are
two
two different.
letters.
We already
Letter
voted.
for Ballard. Letter for-
Yeah, we voted on the Ballard one, and then this is for metered parking. 10 blocks within our district. Let's see if that happens. I will say that we are talking a lot about how can we enforce around the cops whose job is enforcement, and so that remains the major problem. You know, we can put up all the signs we want and all the meters, and if they don't take it, they don't take it. Laura,
I'd like to make a motion asking.
yeah, yes, oh yeah, that, yes.
DOT and the MTA to study enhanced lighting on Roosevelt Avenue underneath the 7 train trestle in CB2 in order to improve street safety and visibility for everyone.
Seconded.
Discussion? Should we say?
We already
Do we
just-
want to,
Yeah.
I mean, do we want to mention in light of the findings from the, what is it called, one part of the district?
Part of the district.
That lighting lighting was the top issue, well, I don't know, I don't want to go, but in light of the findings from part of the district. we would
Yes,
consider-
friendly amendment accepted.
All right, thank you. Should we mention solar or environmentally sustainable, ecologically?
Yes.
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 Friendly amendment accepted?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, all in favor? For enhanced lighting on Roosevelt Avenue under the 7 train.
I see this taking a really long time. Because then in order for them to be solar, they would have to be wired into the outside of the train in order to gather the sunlight, not underneath the train. So they would have to be making some kind of construction changes to the trestle of the train in order to.
Sorry, please, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no.
you
Yeah,
know,
point
so,
taken. I think so. I
you
think
know,
that
so
anything
by
which
the
like,
time they get another contract in order to do something like that.
So I think the request is for the lighting, and in that request, we'd like them to consider
Yes.
feasibility for solar panels.
Right. I mean, there's no reason the roof of every single station can't be covered in solar panels.
No, I'm just saying, they'll say, oh, we're gonna have to now, you know, get a contract for this and blah, 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 and wire it all the way down to the lights underneath, and it'll be 4 more years.
Well, I think any
Well, they
any
gotta
lighting
start
requires,
sometime.
any lighting improvement requires a contract, requires lighting,
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's solar or not.
yeah,
So we
I
want
think that's
lighting.
the reality of things, but if we put in a letter and.
I mean, it can't hurt.
4 years
Right.
from now, we could be celebrating
I mean,
instead of.
the things that are being celebrated today, like congestion pricing, have started a long.
Every day we're planting new trees.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent, thank you. So that motion passes to send a letter to, for enhanced lighting under the 7th Street on Roosevelt Avenue. Any other business?
So, excuse me, I was notified about this meeting 25 minutes before, knowing that on the agenda was an item with regards to no parking on Center Boulevard.
Hi, it may not be a current item, just something being held over.
Yeah,
Well-
and just like a running list of open tickets.
So is it going to be discussed today, or will somebody let us know? I mean, we've spent a lot of time on this issue and have 2 hearings on this and nothing has been resolved, so I'd like to see how we can get to a discussion about this, which really goes to everything that, you know, I've been listening to the meeting all evening with regards to quality of life issues, parking issues, particularly spots that are taken. We talk about trying to get more people to the waterfront and trying to create more spots for people. And yet we have 1 or 2 individuals who have decided to just park 17 cars along Center Boulevard between 50th Avenue and 47th, and nothing has been done. And it was the commissioner from DOT, Garcia, and others who actually came for a walkthrough along with the mayor's office and recommended a quality of life signage along Center Boulevard between 50th and 48th in order to address this. And we can't seem to, you know, to move this forward. I mean, you're all saying that, you know, we need to make sure that parking spaces are for residents or for people who come to visit public spaces. And we have a situation where that has not been addressed. A lot of time has been spent by a number of community residents on this issue. I've coordinated a number of walkthroughs with sanitation, with other city agencies on this. And, you know, this is just dismissed. I mean, if the commissioner from Department of DOT recommends quality of life signage between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. to address this issue so that cars move and everybody has access, equal access to the waterfront, then, you know, the Transportation Committee, I would ask that you look at this particular issue. And I know that, Laura, we've talked about the protected bike lanes, because along Center Boulevard, we have disruptive protected bike lanes. We have no bike lanes on Center Boulevard, and that's very dangerous. So all of the issues that have been discussed today are really germane to something that we've put on the table almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We do keep all this stuff on this to have DOT reminded of it, so that we can discuss it at every meeting to see if there's any movement on it. Did you receive a letter from DOT Commissioner Garcia?
No, she came to the walkthrough. You know, she wants to hear directly from the community board, since it is the community. I have signatures from over 1,000 community members petitioning for this and requesting the requesting the community board to provide a letter of support so we can move forward with this. She's willing to move forward with this. So we just seem to keep going around and around on this particular issue that has a fairly simple solution.
Yeah, I know. I remember when it was brought to this committee, that was my first night as chair. And then Tom, it was actually Tom's last night as chair, so he made the decision. But then it was brought to the full board as well, in which it was discussed and a motion was made, I believe, to try to find accommodations for the food trucks within the park. And I don't know if anything came of that.
I would like to.
Yeah, that's not happening. I mean, the Parks Department is not, you know, the issue, it's the community that has the issue. And the food truck vendors had an opportunity to come to the community board. It seems like the community board is totally dismissing the concerns of the community.
I should address this part. No, Yolanda, that's not what happened. At that last meeting, where where we did a hearing, and as others had mentioned that a hearing for just a letter is very, very unusual. So the community board went above and beyond, in my opinion, to accommodate your request, right? Your group's request and the issue here. It really was a matter of procedure that day when when any motion, ultimately what made the whole thing derail was there was a motion from the floor to table, and then it has been tabled since then. And I think per the charter, And per the New York City Charter and how community boards work, if a issue that has been tabled once does not come back in front of the full board a second time, then that issue is dead as far as the community board is concerned. So really, I think, this
Well,
issue should just
Well,
come off
the concern is not dead. This is a real.
procedurally, from a procedural
So-
perspective.
So.
I know that, yes, Yolanda, please. I'm not done yet. I will let you respond. But from a procedural perspective, it is per the charter, it is dead. So this exact thing cannot be reintroduced. And really, I think it's an oversight that it's still on the transportation committee list. So I think we cannot have the same thing on the charter, on the docket, since it's been addressed, right? So it should come off. Now, if there's another way, if there's another angle or another, if there's anything different you want to bring in from the community board as far as it's concerned, another ask, a different ask, right? Because procedurally, this thing procedurally, the request for community board 2 to write a letter in support or not uh, has died procedurally. So procedurally, you have to ask us to do something different if you want to bring this back. So that's what I would ask you to think of something
Like
to
what?
come
Like
back
what
to
would
us.
you suggest? I mean, I mean, it sounds so disingenuous that you're talking about quality of life, you're talking about parking issues. But you made a comment at that meeting, and that's all recorded, that,
Yep.
we need to protect Bangladeshi because you're a Bangladeshi food vendors. We're talking about quality of life for the community here. We're talking about quality of life for people who want to have access to the waterfront. And we have commissioners that come here and make recommendations. And all of this is just clearly overlooked because of other interests. There's, again, 2 people that own those trucks, and now they have parked 17 cars along Center Boulevard, have not moved. There's rats, there is garbage, sanitation can't get there. So we'd like on the alternate side of the street parking, metered parking. It was mentioned that metered parking should happen everywhere around the city. You talk about equity for parking. If anybody else here had 17 cars parked in front of where they live permanently without allowing other residents, other visitors to the park to park there, everybody would be pretty much up in arms. So we can talk about technicalities, we can talk about how we would treat it at that community board, but we have a real concern that has not been addressed. And I would like for the members of the Transportation Committee, and I understand that, when this was first brought up, the chair, it was his first day. So, if we can have further discussions, it doesn't have to be a quality of life sign. It could be something else as to how we can get this addressed. I worked for city government for many, many years, and the focus was how do we get things done? How do we achieve things? And this does not seem to be, the place to do it.
I'm just gonna, thank you so much. I hear you. I'm gonna move on to people with their hands raised. Maury?
Thank you. So I remember very distinctly, the last meeting that we had, the board meeting when you're,
Maury, you need to fix your microphone. It's hard to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, you need to
Quiet.
get closer.
Hear you.
Just lean in.
Roz has a microphone.
I can hear you.
Sorry, about the conversation. We just want to make sure we can all hear you.
No, I'm gonna switch to a different mic if that'll help, if I can figure it out.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Talk louder.
Just shout.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanna.
That's better. You're
Yeah.
All right,
closer.
good. All right. So at our meeting, our full board meeting, a while back ago, when this issue came up, I remember there was a discussion. We started to discuss it. I made a motion. It was seconded, and we were going to address it. And then another board member voted to table it because he thought it needed more investigation before it could
Correct.
address. And then there was also discussion that it would come back to transportation or any other committee. to
Correct.
pick up. So that I think was where it was left. And technically, I think that was only the first time that it came up as the full board. So if there would have to be obviously either discussion in the full committee, full board, which is not necessary, to write a letter. It could come from just one of the committees if it's addressed. But I do have a question. When you say the commissioner came and said they would need a letter from us, I don't think in my understanding, that the commissioner would advocate one way or another for what the position of the agency is, but was advocating that if they are to respond to it, the community board would need to do something. Is that correct?
Well, she was weighing in along with other heads of city agencies as to how do you address this particular issue with different moving parts. And one of her, because the police department, and that's been part of the discussion tonight as well, you know, they said, we can't enforce something that there's no signage for. If there was some signage here, that would help. At that point, she said, well, you know, in other parts of the city, quality of life signages have been put up to address these types of situations. So that was her recommendation from where she was coming from.
Okay, so I think, you know, they want that to come from the community to advocate for something like that, so then they can make a decision.
Correct.
Of course. So really, in my understanding of the issue is if it were, you know, so this could come up again in the full board or in a committee, and it could be the reason why they want that is because ultimately the community board is the diverse group representing the community and supposed to take action, or we're only advisory. So, you know, it's up to them to decide whether they take our advice or not. So they're kind of passing the buck on to us, but then whatever we do, we can't really control it either.
And
But
Maury,
there's no guarantee.
Maury,
Well, it
again,
would
the
be helpful
exact
if
same thing
if it was
cannot.
discussed at the community board, at the transportation.
But I was gonna say,
the chart.
there's
So sorry,
no
let me-
guarantee if it actually came to the full board, because it only came once, so we technically could go again. But I'm just saying to you, Ms. Jimenez, if it does come to the full board and there is discussion, there's no guarantee the full board may vote against it.
We were at the full board twice.
Well, can it go back to, you know, to the chair of the transportation committee, as he just acknowledged when Marlene Callahan came in to, you know, to discuss this issue, perhaps all the information was not there, and perhaps, you know, there was not a full discussion of this at this particular time. We'd be glad to come back to the transportation committee and, you know, and bring members of the community, if you like additional members of the community. But, you know, I've been at the forefront of this issue because I've worked with the city before, and, you know, as Deborah knows, we're just trying to do like the work that you do as well. You know, I'm doing this on a voluntary basis and trying to improve quality of life and access to waterfront and equitable access from all communities.
Thank you.
And before
Sorry
before
for
we
interrupting.
pass to Roz, sorry, Rylan,
Yeah,
before we
I'm
pass to
Roz
Roz,
Is waiting.
Anatole, you had one more thing to say?
yes, the exact same thing cannot come back because you know it's procedurally dead, and I will stand by that. And if it does come back on the agenda, you know, it cannot come back the same way. So I would suggest, technically, you know, this is me using a technicality to try to help you. If you want to say like from 9 to 7 or 11 to 7,
I'm
whatever.
gonna say
Like,
that.
but
What if I said 11 to 8? Okay.
fine, let's do that. Let's ask for that minor difference, so it's something different that can come back.
Thank you, Roz. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you. Sort of patient. No, but first of all, I would pursue Chair Ashraf's proposal to modify the ask. I think sometimes we get into trouble being too specific in the asks, like what is a quality of life? There are many ways to accomplish this, and perhaps more appropriately is to ask to have for instance, the DOT do a study and tell us what the options, what things we could do to address this issue. But I want to say a little bit more. First of all, you need to come to the board, these meetings during the public comment section. This meeting was over almost, and it was a little inappropriate to bring it up at the end, and maybe it will say it was a misunderstanding. The other thing that I think I feel a little bit more strongly concerned about was the implication of your remarks when you made a reference to the Bangladeshi.
I didn't make those remarks. The
You
chair.
just made it right now with.
I was just echoing, and you can go back to the hearing, and you can go back and look at the hearing and the remarks that he made, which were,
Thank you. Yeah.
which were absolutely inappropriate.
What I'm saying is the implication was that somehow the chair's actions were guided more by an ethnic affiliation of some sort. I just think that we really need to not ever do something like that.
Even if it's happening.
Excuse me?
I said, even if it's happening.
I mean, you know, this is a misrepresentation of everything I said, and I clarified myself to, you know, the council member, the borough hall, and, you know, the mayor's office when, you know, you wrote that complaint letter about me. So I understand.
It was in the videotape. I'm not making anything up.
Yes, no, it was in the videotape, and I asked them to.
Context.
Okay.
Right, no, it's in context, but it's still a misrepresentation because
sorry.
I
There's
was.
a motion here on the table. Laura just made a
Okay.
motion and Corey just seconded
Alright.
it.
Hold on, order. I really appreciate you coming. As was said, the meeting was ending. Public comment
I apologize.
is over. I think it is a misunderstanding. Thank you for bringing this back to our attention. We will discuss I'll discuss with the chair, and I'll discuss with this transportation committee about what could be done. We are, you know, democratically, the board did do something and make a decision, and I can't change that, but we can see, one thing that has been mentioned is that there have been no 311 complaints to the office about this area. So you might think, and consider that, no calls to the office about the problem since that last meeting. So one of our concerns is how much of a problem is this now after everything was talked about and steps were taken, whatever steps they may have been. We do have to end the meeting. A motion was made to end the meeting and seconded. All in favor of that?
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will.
Everybody.
Happy January.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Onwards and upwards.
Remember, board meeting Thursday. Happy New Year, everyone.